Check one. Check two. Check. Huh, that was weird. There was apparently nothing wrong with it, and then there was. I don't know what that was, but yeah, the mic was being weird. It was not muted on my side, so it normally has a little red circle that lets me know it's muted, but not in this case. However, it's always fun. Somebody throws a crapshoot in, and there's an echo, but there shouldn't be. I hope now. And I have echo cancellation turned on, so even there. We're good? Yeah. The volume is relative. I don't know, the volume's fairly high on my end. I'll give it a tick up if I can. Maybe move this a little more centrally located. I'm afraid to move it too much because it needs to be on an arm, and I don't I don't have one. I don't know why. But, hello, hit that like, share the show. Just got the note as soon as your sound came in. Ah, good. Yeah, we need a hype train in the Twitch area too. We gotta start hype training. It needs bass. Audio is not good. Okay. Huh. Because it's just my. All right, we'll go. I'll remedy this. I'm not afraid. Let's see. Did it magically get closed down? Hold on. I'm gonna check something just to see if this works better. Hold on one second. Nope. Yep. Check. How's that sound? Is it louder? Is it better? Is it more? Is it less? Does it sound better or crappy? I've always got to wait. Hey-oh. Check 1, 2, check, go 1, 2. Sounds better? Okay, good. All right, well, we'll start from there. Hello. And again, hit the like, share the show, etc., etc. This is how I have to deal with the rudimentary gear that I'm still using for the show because we're shoestringing it here, kids. So hit the like, share the show, patreon.com/Hal Sparks, etc., etc. Follow me on Instagram at Hal Sparks. Follow me on Blue Sky, halsparks.com, which is what it is there. That kind of stuff. Fine now, medium loud. I like medium loud. That's good. Is that a thing? This will be. Has anyone heard about how much snow in Russia? It's a lot. Yes, they're not. Just because Phil said it was cold and horrible in Ukraine, it's also cold and horrible, if not more so, in Russia. So we'll get to that in a minute because we got some friends of Russia in the show. Specifically, well, let's do a rundown of what our potential things are tonight. Of course, Tucker's coming to the defense of Putin, saying basically that they're going to nuke everybody, which is that using mutual assured destruction as an umbrella under which you can attack anyone. Apparently, the dipshits over at Peanut Butter Dickhead's show did not realize that Trump was going to taco on Greenland. Trump does his little 250 address, all the while covering the gnarly shape of his hand. Glenn Beck says this could end the elites, but I think where's the more important one? Where's it over here? Now is it over here? I don't think we're gonna. Yeah, this one. I've had enough. Glenn Beck goes off on Pam Bondi. And then Trump speaks at this reception of business leaders, which is shorter, a shorter, more truncated, dumb version of what you saw before. And of course, Nancy Mace says that Republicans should prepare for midterm losses. And Nutlick gets called out at Davos as well. We'll deal with that. Let's start with the shorter pieces if we can. This business right here. This is the story of America. President Trump's Freedom 250 address. The 250 years of America in 3 minutes and 18 seconds. And this is the best it's ever been. So I don't even know why we're even talking about the past. Those losers, right? Bunch of stupid people.
The sweltering summer of 1776, 56 patriots gathered in a meeting hall in Philadelphia and signed their names to a document that would change the.
Sorry. Wait. Whoops. Get back in here. Okay, first. Yay! For the record, yeah, don't do that. Don't close those. Yeah. Sorry, a meeting all? Where were they meeting? A meeting all. Okay. All right, I'm gonna have to fix that. Why is playing the sound effects every time I do that? Hold on. I'll bring this down. That this seems like it was, shall we say, fixed with AI, and you've gold leafed it in a way that King George would be proud. What? That's written in. Look at the cursive. What a beauty! Run. Sorry, dipshit. Run that by me again. What? This is a big one, huh? Why did the production company that did The Secret do this? I'm fairly certain that they did. From Pittsburgh to burgers and fries. Except his. By the sacrifice they made to pretend they have bone spurs and ditch out on their duty. See, you guys said it wasn't 2.5 centuries. Some of you said that was 37 years. And oh, there's no audio on the video. Oh God, really? Hold on. Now I'm commenting on this dipshit and you don't even hear him. Why would that be? All right, back up. Here we go. Pitiful. Start again. Hold on. We'll just pick up from here. We'll edit that part out. Who's been messing with my buttons? There's not even cats here. Good Lord. Okay, now we're back. There are the
56 patriots gathered in a meeting hall in Philadelphia.
A meeting hall.
And signed their names to a document that would change the course of history forever.
One of my executive orders from Project 2025. No, something better. No, nothing's better.
The Declaration of Independence, and I have it right there. What a beauty.
What a hat.
Not only
now you know what I was referencing.
Did they sever the political bonds with Great Britain, they announced a new era in human events, proclaiming that all of us are endowed by our Creator with rights to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. In our
Do you hear that like echo effect? That's what I was talking about with like the movie The Secret. It seems like the same production company.
War for independence and every generation since, thousands of American patriots have enlisted their lives in defense of that cause. From Trenton to Yorktown, from Gettysburg to Chambersburg,
to Pittsburgh and burgers and Five Guys and burgers and fries.
From the fields of France to the shores of the Philippines.
I guess he doesn't want to say Tripoli.
And on the battlefields all over the world, every generation of Americans has drawn meaning and been inspired by
to ditch out on their service because they pretend to have bone spurs.
By the immortal deeds of the founding generation and the nation they gave us to build and to defend.
Well, as long as you don't actually have to serve. I mean, obviously, you're too rich for that.
2.5 centuries. That's 250 years.
See, I still don't. I debate. I don't think that's true. 2.5 centuries. That's like a century. Cent sounds like a penny. Sounds like That's like 27 months. I think legally.
The spirit of 17.
Oh my God! Look at the kid on the left. Like Jesus Christ, you're old, but you can whack those drums, buddy. Christ. You look like Ted Nugent without makeup.
76 has carried our flag to places and heights that our founding fathers could never have dreamed.
Well, yeah, I mean, if you rank it up there with like cell phones and stuff like that, but I think they, I don't think you mean actual heights. We haven't stuck it on Everest, I don't think.
Americans forged into the frontier and blazed across the Great Plains. We tamed the Wild West. We pushed the boundaries of scientific discovery.
Basically, Trump did this all by
We
himself.
enlightened the world with electricity and commerce.
Well, we lighted up the world.
We defeated tyrants and vanquished dictators.
And then elected one.
And we planted the American flag on the moon.
Well, Neil Armstrong did, and he's Freemason. Good guy.
We owe it all to the patriots and heroes of 1776.
Which is why we maggots steal that number all the time.
Is the story of America. We're excited to retell one of the great.
What's happening to that dude? Is that red coat? It's a bad time to do like Cirque du Soleil contortion.
His tales in the history.
It's Daniel Boone. I'm fairly certain. It might be Davy Crockett. I always have a hard time telling them apart.
Mankind, working with Hillsdale College and some of our country's brightest leaders and foremost thinkers who have contributed.
Foremost thinkers: Stephen Miller, Ted Nugent, Alex Jones, Candace Owens.
To the Story of America video series, including Vice President J.D. Vance, Secretary.
So that's what he's been doing this whole time. They've just got him basically doing voiceovers.
Secretary of War Pete Hegseth, Dr. Larry Arnn, Eric Metaxas.
Really? Metaxas? Okay, this is now I've got new material to fuck with.
Brian Kilmeade.
Brian Kilmeade? Did literally everyone else at Fox say no?
And many others. Join us in honoring this incredible history, and together we will give America the greatest birthday celebration our country has ever seen. God bless you, and God bless America.
And God bless this growing cyst on the back of my hand that I have to have a death grip on to hide. That is now, like, I almost feel like his hands are locked this way, like a bad robot that they're like, yeah, just glue its hands together, otherwise it'll hit somebody. The story of America. I look forward to Brian Kilmeade's take on why we shouldn't have given women the vote, and Eric Metaxas's argument that religious pluralism was probably the biggest mistake the founders made after stopping wearing wigs. So that's it. Okay, so now we, at least with that short test, we know our stuff is actually working. And look, I'm cut off. Why did my little... How about that? And I'll stretch myself. Enoch Chuck. Here we go. Good times. Yeah. If that video series is available, Can't Stop Lying, we're gonna have to go after it. I mean, man, talk about something to pick apart. Holy hell. All right, let's jump straight in. There's so much to go. Let's go with his talk at the WEF. Now, if you listen to maggots and if you listen to Glenn Beck, and hit that like and share the show and subscribe, damn it. If you do that, you know, if you watch any of those shows, they hate the World Economic Forum. They think that Klaus Schwab, who used to run it, was part of was the leader of a group that's going to take away everybody's personal freedom and create, electronic government and super coins that would, I don't know, only the elites can use or some shit like that. And it's basically a Wiccan gathering or whatever.
And
we'll jump right to the point where this guy
and I think we can all
he introduces them, and then Trump comes up. By the way, Trump hates these rooms because they're small. They don't play Lee Greenwood when he walks up, and he knows everybody in the room is smarter than he is, and it makes him nervous. But that doesn't mean he won't stand there like a braggadocious dickhead and vaingloriously call them stupid.
Well, thank you very much. And he's a hell of a guy, but we have an audience. I recognize so many. I know so many.
which means he has no idea who these people
The
are.
king of soccer, the king of sports over here, John.
The king of soccer,
When you
John
have
Soccer.
Johnny, and I heard
Johnny Soccer is his
you,
name.
I just
He sits right next to Tim
got a
Apple.
report on the sales of tickets. It's there's never been anything like it, so that's good. Going to break every record.
No,
So thank you for
they're definitely not.
choosing us. We appreciate that.
Right about the time when most people who would go see an international soccer game would feel least welcome in the United States, the timing is impeccable.
He's another spectacular person, and so many people in the audience. And I have this beautiful speech, page after page, and I just said I just made a speech, and they were all here. They heard it one way or the other. And I said, the last thing we want to do is waste our time and hear it again. But I do want to say the people in this room are amazing.
He can't read.
Most of you were
They also don't have
in
teleprompters.
the other room also.
That's really what it's about. Like, he doesn't want to read it unless it looks like he's not reading them because he likes the teleprompters at eye level so he can look over and look like he's just talking to half the room.
And the United States is doing really well, doing like nobody thought was actually possible, certainly not this soon. It's 1 year. It's exactly a year if you think about it.
I am thinking about it, and it's a year and a day.
Time
but
flies. It's 25%. That's a long time.
yes, it is. 25% gone. But, yep. And we'll be halfway through you before we know it.
But it went very, very fast.
Nope, kind of dragged in places, I got to say.
We've had tremendous luck. I think it's been reported by even people that aren't lovers of Donald Trump that it's been maybe the best first year for.
No. People that like you aren't saying that. Certainly people who think you suck aren't making up ridiculous statements like that.
Any president. I think in terms of what we've accomplished, it might very well be.
No, it isn't.
But we've accomplished a lot, including ending 8 wars.
No, you didn't end 8 wars. By the way, even his list of 8 wars includes conflicts that were going on when he was in his first term. He's including those, just for the record. But in his mind, he thinks it's this year. Also, he didn't end them. There's a bunch of them still fighting, and he's like, well, we got that solved, but we kind of got it unsolved, and now we're getting it solved again. And we have peace in the Middle East, which is just absurd and not true at all. And especially since I think he didn't attack Iran literally because he wanted to be able to claim that there wasn't an ongoing war there while he was at this
One
thing.
to go. I thought that was going to be one of the easiest ones, and it's.
No, you didn't think it was going to be easy. You sold everybody on the idea that you would be able to solve it in one phone call in 24 hours before you were ever even sworn in.
Turning out to be one of the tougher ones, but you heard me say before, 25, 30,000 people are dying a month. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, Russia sucks. They're terrible at their job. And it's like, I want to say it's like 3-1 Russian deaths. Yeah. Not the tactical geniuses they told everybody they were.
And I think we're getting close. Jared's here, and Steve Witkoff is here.
Why aren't they there? How is it going to be solved here?
Well, a lot of people that are working on that are here, and they're doing
So they're not working on it right now, is what
a
I'm
good
saying.
job.
They're doing a good job, just not right now.
I think it could have gone into a world where if we weren't here, it was out of control. But
yes, there's nothing out of control about the world right now at all. Sorry, 1 second.
I think we're going to get it resolved.
You think so? Eventually? Shit, it might just resolve on its own if we just leave it alone, I guess, right? Maybe maybe you're the problem.
And I'm doing it to save 30,000 people a month. If you can imagine your kid, take your son leaves home, waves to you, proud of him, you're so beautiful, and then
comes back a woman. Oh, sorry, this is war, not an elementary school.
2 weeks later, you hear he had his head blown off.
Well, it is Russia. I'm sure they deliver the news, in the least gentle way possible.
Fighting Ukraine or fighting Russia. It's both of them.
Mainly people getting that news are on the Russian side. I mean, just statistically.
Total are averaging 30,000, actually 30,000 young people, generally soldiers, a little bit in towns, but for the most part it's soldiers. Every single month they're dying. So I think we're going to do well there.
Why? Based on what? They don't seem to mind. The Russians don't mind. They don't mind losing 20 to 23,000 people a month. They don't mind. They don't give a shit. That's the least of their worries. That's the thing Russia complains about the least, is the number of soldiers dead or wounded, maimed.
But we have Scott Bessent, who everyone knows, and Howard Lutnick, and these guys are doing a fantastic job with what we're doing.
That's their own team clapping around. There's like 9 people.
They were both recommended by many of the people in this room.
Oh, thank you for that. Can we send that clip to Glenn Beck immediately? Sorry, Howard Nutlick, aka Epstein's next door neighbor, and Scott Bessent, aka former Soros employee, gay man with kids, were suggested to Trump by people at the World Economic Forum, the crowd that regularly goes to the WEF. And he went, brilliant, I'll do that. Yeah. Maggots, Glenn Beck, can you guys explain this to me?
What do you think of Scott? Oh, he's fantastic. What do you think of Howard? Very different types. I would say these are two exact opposites. And I like that. I like that. They
Yes, one is a happily married man with children, and the other one was a pedophile's next door neighbor and either looked the other way or helped the FBI back in the day intentionally avoid taking evidence from the house. Yeah, very different guys.
are the exact opposite. You know, I never thought of it that way. I'm just saying that I'm looking at you two. You are in every way, but they're
It's because Nutlick is short.
tremendously talented people and very successful people. And I like bringing
Yeah, especially at the market right now. While they're buying the dip every time they know what you're going to say a day ahead of time.
successful people in because there's a reason for success. It's one of the reasons that we've had such success. You know, we took over a country with a border that was a disaster, where millions of people were coming in. Millions of people were coming in every single week.
And being sent back immediately, and it was the same people over and over and over again.
I mean, literally a week would have millions of people, and a lot of
No, literally, we wouldn't have a million, and we wouldn't have millions of people.
and they weren't vetted. It's totally open border. You'd have people
They were directly rejected.
come in. You could look at them. I don't want to say why define that, because they always discriminate. So I don't discriminate.
You mean they're brown?
But you can look at some people and say they're criminals. And we took in tremendous numbers of
Yeah, especially those toddlers, the ones with cancer.
murderers, drug dealers, mental institution, insane asylum people, people that were
Insane asylum people. It's our people too, I guess.
insane asylum institutions for the mentally ill and dangerous, very dangerous.
You mean criminally insane? No, just the mentally ill and very dangerous. Are those coordinating factors, or are they just coincidental?
They dumped them into our country like we were dirt.
Is that what you're supposed to do with these people? You're supposed to dump them into dirt, and they just treated us like dirt, so they dumped them in here, and that therefore we're dirt.
And we're doing a great job of getting them out, but
and not being dirt anymore.
it's it takes a lot of time, a lot of effort.
Yeah, more effort than time. Also, you're failing miserably at your mass deportation numbers, and that's what's pissing maggots off. That, and I guess you're not being racist enough.
And it's a nasty business too.
Well, the way you do it.
But if they
It's weird because Biden had better numbers, Obama had better numbers as far as deportations, and they didn't feel the need to be like grossly un-American in their application of policy. It's
were
weird.
bad someplace else, they're going to be bad here. They killed people in their country, whether it was Venezuela or the Congo or.
It's always those two places. Interesting. And also, interestingly enough, you have business relationships with a lot of rich Venezuelans and rich people from the Congo.
Many of the countries where they came. In the Congo, they emptied out their jails into our country.
And they used a water slide to get them here. Most people don't know that.
In Venezuela.
Or maybe they had catapults. I don't know. Maybe they're just good swimmers.
Well, they did the same thing, and in many other countries they did the same thing. So when you read all these stories about ICE, you'll understand they're doing a hell of a job, because we can't have those people in our
If I was, I don't know, I used to do a better job, and we didn't read about it at all because it wasn't a factor. They just did their job. The fact that you're reading a lot of stories about this and the output is worse it just sounds like they're not doing that a hell of a job, Brownie.
Country, and we're getting them out. But we're doing numbers in terms of people investing in the United States like we've never had before. I guess it's because of November 5th, the election, but the election gave us a view, and it's a view on tariffs to protect our country because our
A view on tariffs.
country is being plucked.
What a view. So a kill.
Like you pluck a chicken. Our country was being plucked, and it wasn't good. And, you can only take so much of it.
Yeah. I'm not the chicken plucker. I'm the chicken plucker sons, and I've been plucking chickens since the chicken plucking's done. I'll be plucking chickens till the chicken plucking's done. Is that what it is? Yeah.
And we've changed
No, it's not like being plucked like a chicken.
it around very quickly. And we've had, we'll have, Scott, I'd say $600 billion worth of tariff money coming in. And
600 billion, right on. We've only lost $2 trillion worth of business.
I think we're going to have.
And that's also money from Americans who are importing things and costs that will be passed on to the consumer. So it's basically a VAT tax is what he's looking to institute.
Maybe more than that. By next year, it'll be much more than that. That's not including the countries and companies, because we have countries coming over and
You meant to say companies, but, they both start with
building, but we have companies, great companies coming in. Apple is spending $650 billion. I mean,
oh, Apple started finally working in the United States. Weird.
So many. One just announced $10 billion. Toyota.
Chips and Science Act.
Met Mr. Toyota in Japan.
Oh yeah, did you, Mr. Toyota? How was Mrs. Toyota? I hear she runs quiet.
So what's your name? Toyota. I said, oh, do you own the car company? Yes, 92%. I said, you didn't have to be that specific. But I said, you're rich. Yes, I'm rich. But
yes, I rich. Why is it that, besides the fact that Trump is a bigoted old fart, that all of his foreigner voices are identical? Whether you're French or Japanese or Chinese or from Nairobi or German. They all, no, I do not know. No.
He just announced he's going to do $10 billion worth of plans. I mean, it's amazing what's going on. Look, it's amazing.
He announced it in the next 10 years, and it's totally happening right away. Yeah, everybody buys it. And he's going to invest $10 billion in the next 10 years when they were previously investing 1.5. And at the same time, you remove the tariffs just on that say-so, even though they lowered the amount.
We've never had anything like it or close. Nobody else has either. So I think in terms of your investments, you're in great shape. I don't even ask anybody how you're doing now. It's like everybody is making so much money. Oh.
Well, yeah, that's the circles you run in, dipshit. Clearly, you're not talking to average Americans on their way to and from the grocery store.
Look who I see, Tim. Hi, Tim Cook. He's been good for 650. Think of it, $650 billion. Okay, can you imagine? That's what he's going to be investing. More than that. I think it's going to end up being more. He's great.
You mean because things are going to get more costly, all the components and stuff, because your whipsaw tariff policy?
And he's great. He's done some job. You have done really some job. And we have so many people in this room that have done a job. I don't know how many have done.
This is true. I'm sure most of the people there have a job. Not a lot of people unemployed going to the World Economic Forum in Davos. I'm just, obviously talking out of my ass.
Done better than Tim, but some are right up there with you. You better get your ass moving, I'll tell you. But fantastic people. But
there's literally like 3 or 4 $trillion companies, and Apple's one of them.
I go around and I say,
I think what he's probably referring to is Jensen Huang and NVIDIA.
Meet the biggest people, biggest business people. I say, congratulations. They say, on what? I said, you've doubled your net worth since I've been president, right? He said, Yeah, even more than that. They would say even more. We're doing even better than that.
Yeah, thanks, Howard, not like for telling us when he was going to scoop the market so we could, fly in there and buy the dip, because he was going to taco, and the fact that we knew that ahead of time. Bing.
And, we've given you a platform where you can really put your genius to work. We have a lot of brilliant genius people in this room.
A platform?
And you can put that genius to work. And
yeah, unlike when?
It's an honor to do it. In a way, I'm jealous. In a way, I'm upset. A couple of people in the room, I can't stand them, and they've become very rich. There's nothing I can do about it. I would screw them if I could, but I can't do it, right, Dina? I can't do it.
Right, because you're part owner in the company? Or?
I would, if I had a chance, if I could just take them and say, you can't do what Apple's doing, but you're not allowed to do that.
Yeah, it's weird. You're not allowed to, what's it called, pick winners and losers, like you guys said Obama had been doing?
Newt Gingrich, right? We can't do it. But I would love to do it, really.
Newt Gingrich is there. So maybe I was wrong about unemployment.
It's one of those things, but everybody's making a lot of money, and everybody
is. You are, and I like, aren't we all? Don't you feel like, I mean, some days you're just like, Jesus, am I making too much money?
Investing money in the United States, and our jobs are through the roof. And I made a statement the other day, thank goodness for robots, because we're never going to have enough people to run all these places that are.
How did I miss him saying, thank goodness for robots?
Being built. And I think robots are actually going to be a very big business.
Yeah, you think so?
It's going to be surprisingly big, but I think we're going to need it. We're going to need.
Yeah, because we're getting rid of all the immigrants specifically to create that market.
Need it. So we have a country that's becoming very safe. We had the best crime numbers that we've had ever in recorded history.
Not true.
Perhaps they were better.
Nope.
100 years ago, I'm not sure, but the recorded history is 67 years, and in 60.
What? Sorry, we've only been keeping crime stats for 67 years.
67 years are the best numbers, and that's despite having a lot of people in the country that shouldn't be here, that we're getting out.
Huh. Maybe they're not the problem then.
But
so they're still here, you admit that, and crime is down. So maybe it was never them, kind of like the fentanyl crisis at the southern border?
We've got tough law enforcement, smart law enforcement, and patriotic law enforcement. They've been amazing. One example is Washington, D.C. You couldn't.
Yeah, some guys... you can't hear Miranda being read to you over the guys humming the battle hymn of the Republic.
You couldn't walk down the street in Washington. You get mugged, you get killed.
In that order.
They were losing 100 people. Think of it, 100 people a year.
A year?
Dead.
Yeah, I didn't think they were actually lost.
Call up the parents. They come in from Iowa. They come in from Indiana to see the Washington Monument.
And they ended up impaled on it.
They end up being killed. It's not happening anymore.
Never. No one's ever going to get killed from Iowa or Indiana. If you're from Nebraska, I'd watch yourself.
And I said in the other room, people are going to dinner. They're meeting their wives in the middle of the street, and they're walking across the street to have dinner.
Maybe they should worry more about traffic.
New restaurants are being built at records that nobody's ever seen. They were closed.
Yeah, we haven't seen them yet, and we're not going to see them.
We lost half of the restaurants in the last 4 years.
No, we didn't. We lost all of them because of COVID.
In the Biden administration, now they're all opening again. I even went to have a dinner just to show, I guess, to make a point. I went to a restaurant in Washington. I walked right down the middle of the street.
No, he didn't.
I wouldn't say that Secret Service was thrilled, but if I did it a year before, believe me, it wouldn't work. Here's my other friend, Hussein. How are you? Okay? Are you good? Boy,
your friend Hussein?
You got a lot of good people here. This is a very good place. But
did you hear that, Glenn Beck? Did you hear that, maggots? He loves WEF. What's not to like? All of his friends are there. I'm kidding. He doesn't have.
So it's amazing what's happened there. Memphis is amazing. When you go to Louisiana, what we've done there has been incredible. Always much more helpful if we could have a little participation. In the case of Louisiana, we have Jeff Landry, the governor, Republican governor. We have a couple of Democrat governors. We have a couple of Democrat mayors who very quietly are begging us for help.
Oh, yeah? Yeah, but you don't want to name them right now because then people will realize, A, that's not a real name, and B, you can't even tell what city you were pretending they were from,
And we're making them all look very good. But I would do it if I were
or they're making you look good because,
a Democrat. If I were a mayor or a governor, I'd be saying, Mr. Trump, could you quietly come over here and would you do this, President, for me? Send about 1,000 troops in here.
no, none of them are asking for that.
And we do it fast, and we get rid of the criminals, and it's amazing how effective. You know, I didn't campaign on this. I campaigned on law and order, but I didn't know it would be
The military on our streets.
this type of law and order. But
Yeah, it's not law and order at all. It's basically attacking your own
the
citizenry.
cities, some of these cities, we've lost these cities.
No, we haven't. No, we have not lost them. They're not gone. They still exist. They're doing just fine.
We're bringing it back, and we're bringing it back quickly. Washington took us literally 6 weeks to make it safe, and 8
Because it was already safe by and large.
weeks to make it really safe. And
Yeah, now in a couple more weeks, it's going to be super safe.
now it's really safe.
Yeah, it's going to be like mega safe. Sorry, MAGA safe.
And I don't know, you know, some people disagree, but I like seeing those big, strong soldiers. You know,
Oh, we know you do. Not as much as you like stroking Mom Donnie's leg, but
we won in the Supreme Court a very important case, merit. Our country was built on merit, and then all of a sudden we got away from that, and people with A averages and high college boards and everything were not able to get into colleges.
yeah, and dipshit C-student legacy assholes like you managed to be president. I agree. There's something wrong.
And people that had C averages and low college boards were getting in. And, you
In where?
know, it's not fair, but our country is based on merit. The whole concept and the whole system only works on merit. It doesn't work on anything else.
What would be the opposite of merit? I don't know, like fraud, you mean? Like being a total business fraud, for example? You know? I mean, what merit comes from Trump steaks and Trump vodka and Trump cigarettes and Trump handy wipes?
And our military works now on merit. And when you see the soldiers in the street in Washington or in Memphis or in New Orleans or in some of these places, including Chicago, you know, we have crime down in Chicago, despite the fact that we have an idiot governor and a mayor that, I mean, very low IQ person. He's a low IQ person.
Yeah, crime's down, even though the National Guard and the military aren't there.
And it's amazing. You have these wonderful, beautiful black women with Make America Great Again, MAGA caps on. They're all over Chicago. They want MAGA to come in. And we went in a pretty quiet way as
Because you didn't.
opposed to the way we did it in Minnesota. You know, in Minnesota, we took out over 10,000 hardline criminals, people with big convictions that came in here that shouldn't be.
What? No. They haven't. He's literally counting every immigrant that they rounded up without papers, like working in restaurants and all that stuff, like, and their children. That was the whole number over the course of months.
We brought them back to countries. In some cases, we bring them to jails because if you bring them back to the country, they'll find a way, despite the strong borders, they'll find a way in. Because a lot of them are really evil, but they're not stupid.
Oh, well, obviously they're smart enough to be able to escape an insane asylum or be let out and then walk here on their own and have the, like, I guess the capacity to not act on their baser instincts until they got in the country. Play stupid.
So we're doing a real job. The country's the hottest country anywhere in the world.
Notice he stopped saying real good job or real great job, or he's just saying we're doing a real job. It's like it falls into that what do you want a cookie category?
The best place to invest. The great big beautiful bill is incredible. You get that 1 year deduction. You build something and you take the whole thing down. And I always said that's what made my first term so successful because, I mean, people were buying things. I have a friend bought an airplane. He never used it. He just
Jesus Christ. Yeah, because all your tax breaks are for people to buy fucking airplanes.
bought it. He said, I deducted it. He's on the plane. I think he's got, Steve, you could buy it. He's got about 4 hours on the plane. It's been 3 years. I think he's got to be a great plane to buy, actually, because he'll never use it. But
Jesus Christ. I've sold more Boeing planes than anybody else. Mostly they're my friends hooking up my other friends with a tax deduction.
It really spurred people to do things and do projects that they really would have delayed or held. And the beautiful thing about the great big beautiful bill, the one that we just did, is over there you had a 2-year window to do it. Now we have a 10-year window, which I hate to tell you because people will take their time. So in one way, I didn't want that. I call that not good, but it is good ultimately.
Why?
Think of it. It gives me a chance to use it if and when I ever get out of this position.
Yeah, there you go. That's exactly why.
This is a big question. It gives me a chance to use it. Otherwise, I'd be precluded. That would be terrible, right? But it's 10 years. But you're able to, you build something, you build a factory, you write the whole thing off 1 year. Nobody's ever thought that was possible. It was always 38, sometimes 40, sometimes 41 years. You get a little here, a little there, nothing. You write it all up. So it's been really amazing. And you are the people that made it happen. Really, largely, it's you.
Sorry. So the World Economic Forum is behind all of your monetary policies and your tax policy that allows your buddies who are rich to buy an airplane they're never going to use and just have it sit on the tarmac because it's basically a free plane.
A group of others, not a lot more. I mean, the people here, I guess because of Larry, the people that came,
I guess Larry Ellison,
to this event, it's really incredible. I wasn't sure how it was going to turn out. We had somebody, as you know, that ran it for many, many years, and I'm not sure what happened there, but I figured, well, that's all right. They had a hell of a run in Davos. Then I heard Larry was taking it over, more or less, and he called me. He said, would you do me a favor? Would you be there? And we've had some great business dealings together.
I bet.
He's great. He's one of you. He's one of the greats, and it was.
So the people at the World Economic Forum are the greats.
An honor. We had
elites, I think, is a word that most people.
We had a good speech. We got great reviews. I can't believe it. We got good reviews in that speech.
What?
They say he's a horrible dictator type person. I'm a dictator. But sometimes you need a dictator. But they didn't say that.
No, you don't.
In this case.
We don't ever need one. We do not need a dictator.
And no, it's common sense. It's all based on common sense. It's not conservative or liberal or anything else.
Well, it's un-American, and being conservative and liberal are parts of, I suppose, being American. What you're doing has nothing to do with our system at all.
Mostly, let's say 95% common sense, and that's what we have. So I just want to
and the other 5%, unfortunately, is the kind of lack of common sense that makes you, try to treat your kids cold with psilocybin. So that's the problem, is like, where on that spectrum do you fit? It seems like you live mostly in that 5%.
Thank everybody for being here. It's such an honor. And if we can ever help, you're going to let me know. And I have a pretty direct line. Marco Rubio's here, too. He's done a fantastic job as Secretary of State. He'll go down as maybe the best Secretary of State if he keeps going like he's going. That's a big question. I don't know that he will, but for the first year, he's right. He's headed to the top.
Based on what?
And I just want to thank
his lack of negotiations that have led us into striking countries.
Thank everybody very much for being here. Thank you very much. Take care of yourselves. Thank you.
Yeah, so he just blew off all the speech and just turned this into a blather. Let me give myself a round of applause. I was good. Wasn't I good at that? That was great. So much better than the written remarks. You and jerk off in my hair. We'll talk later at the Eyes Wide Shut party. And he's just over it. And part of that is because he went and he had he had a sit down. Yeah. So they were doing all these like side gatherings. He met the NATO secretary, the Secretary General of NATO. And in this one, apparently, like, it's hard to tell from what right wingers have taken away. Some of them think that because he was talking shit about Greenland, they've ignored entirely the fact that he backed down from his nonsense entirely and said, I'm not going to attack with force. We're going to have it, but we're going to do it other ways or some shit like that. And then he rescinded his tariff threat, was the other way he was going to do it because it fucked the market. And then as soon as he did, the market went back up. So there you go.
We've taken long trips, and this was a long one.
but it's been working very well. We're having tremendous meetings with heads of state, with people of very big consequence having to do with war and peace. Which
also, long trip. What do you mean? The 8-hour flight?
Is why we're here, and I just want to thank the Secretary General for being with us. We have a few things to discuss. It was a meeting I actually look very forward to. He's doing a fantastic job. We've been friends. We lifted GDP from 2% to 5% together. That was done jointly, and it worked out really.
That's quite the hairdo. It's very Benny Hinn these days.
Really very well.
I don't know what the fuck that is. This bit right here, like it's just at this point he's just given up on dying. It just looks dirty.
We appreciate it, Mark. So we'll be talking about various things. We'll be talking about Greenland. I imagine it may come up in our discussion.
You think?
But I think the trip has been amazing so far. It's been amazing. As you know, we're staying, and tomorrow we're doing something else.
Okay, great. Yeah, so that's good. So you're staying there, but tomorrow you're doing something else. Eyes Wide Shut party?
Having to do with the Board of Peace. We're getting tremendous acceptance of that. It's going to be great. So we'll see how that all works out, but we're doing that tomorrow.
Are you going to meet with Lukashenko?
So thank you very much, media. Thank you very much. And Mark, would you
Yeah, just briefly, what I just wanted to say again, as I did this morning when I was on a panel, I want to thank you again for what you did since coming in January, Trump 47. Basically getting the Europeans and Canada to really step up, and that led to...
Yes, getting them to step up because they have no choice, because he's undermining all of our cooperation, so they have to pull more of their own weight. Otherwise, the entire thing will fucking collapse.
The enormous success we had in The Hague was the 5%, which is crucial to defend ourselves and to also equalize with what the US is paying. This was a problem already there since Eisenhower. I always tell the Europeans, you're completely committed to NATO, but there is also that one irritant, and it is this factor, that the Europeans were not paying the same as the US was paying. And we solved it, and this is crucial also because we need the money to protect ourselves. There's one thing I heard you say yesterday and today, you were not absolutely sure that the Europeans would come to the rescue of the US if you will be attacked. Let me tell you, they will. And they did in Afghanistan, as you know, for every...
He said that he wasn't sure if NATO would come to defend him, defend the U.S. If we asked, and they saying yes, we did in Afghanistan. This stuff I've said and other people have mentioned. Of course, NATO came to our aid when 9/11 happened specifically.
American who paid the ultimate, for every 2 Americans who paid the ultimate price, there was 1 soldier from another NATO country who did not come back to his family. From the Netherlands, from Denmark, particularly from other countries. So you can be
nice to throw in Denmark there. So this is the first Trump is hearing that we had allied help in Afghanistan and Iraq.
Absolutely. If ever the US will be under attack, your allies will be with you. Absolutely. There's an absolute guarantee. I really want to tell you this because this is important. It pains me if you think it is not. And under your leadership, this alliance is stronger than ever.
Thank you very much. It's a great compliment. Any questions?
Mr. President.
Yes. How did you get this stupid?
The Danish foreign minister rejected your call to negotiate on Greenland. What will those...
I didn't call him.
No, sorry. The Danish foreign minister rejected what you said in your speech, that you were hoping to negotiate to acquire Greenland, essentially saying that this is not something that they are willing to discuss. So what will those negotiations
Well, they
look
didn't
like?
tell me that, so when they tell me, because I don't like getting it secondhand, if he wants to tell me, he'll tell me that to my face.
Literally, they've said it everywhere.
And when will you be discussing this?
I have no idea.
Yeah, if I don't meet him, he can't tell me to go fuck myself. So then I don't have to figure out a way to do it.
You would be discussing it with this man right here.
Mr. President,
He's frankly more important.
Mr. President, when you said you would remember if Denmark did not agree to a deal on Greenland, what did you mean? What are the consequences?
You'll have to figure that out for yourself.
No, you kind of need to explain it.
You're a smart guy.
Mr. President, do you see a price for Greenland that's reasonable?
I could see that, yeah.
Like, how would you calculate that?
I could see that, but there's a bigger price, and that's the price of safety and security and national security and international security, having to do with many of your countries. Mm-hmm. That's really the price, and that's the big price. And as you know, we're doing the Golden Dome. It's going to be very expensive, and it's better if we have Greenland than it is without. It's going to be safer, it's going to be stronger, it's going to be better for Europe, and it's going to be better for us. And
So why can't you just rent the land from Greenland or partner with them?
we'll see what happens.
Honestly, I don't even know why you'd have to rent it. Like, there's plenty of uninhabited space in Greenland that you could put those things, and they would just benefit from the financial lift it would give the country having that base there in the first place.
Any other question?
What, is it reassuring to hear the NATO Secretary General say NATO will defend the United States if it comes under attack?
Well, I hope that that's true. I mean, he's a good man. He's never lied to me before. You know, we've had a good relationship.
It's actually just how it has always worked, stupid.
And he made that statement. That's nice. I mean,
Yeah, NATO's not based on a handshake between the two of you.
you know, when I see what's happening with Greenland, I wonder, because I want Greenland for security. I don't want it for anything else. We have so much rare earth. We don't know what to do with it.
Yeah, I don't even know why we're even worrying about China anymore. So much rare earth. I guess that whole Tucker Carlson, we need Russia for rare earth minerals is horseshit, I guess.
We don't need it for anything else. And in terms of Greenland, you know, you have to go 25 feet down through ice to get it. It's not something that a lot of people are going to do or want to do.
Yeah, they're also not going to place a base there either.
No, this is security we're talking about. And I can say one thing about Mark. He wants security, and he wants security for all of us, I think. We're a member of
Where are we going to get our ice from?
NATO. He wants security for NATO and beyond. So
Yes, NATO in space.
he says that, Steve, I think it's very nice. Okay? Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you, press. Thank you, press.
Thank you.
Thank you, press. Thank you, press. Let's go. Let's go. Start moving. Thank you, press.
Genius. Again, blather. And ultimately he gave in. There's not going to be an attack. And then he met with the president of Egypt, which is, and this has a lot to do with them buying in on Gaza.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. A friend of mine is...
By the way, hit that like, share the show. It's Hal Sparks Megaworldwiide.
He was a great general. He's a great president. And it's an honor to
He's doing a fantastic job.
have him. And Mr.
I got Marco here. He's doing a fantastic job. And I got Scott and Howard. And he's doing a fantastic job. Steve, who's doing a fantastic
President, we have a lot to talk about. So I thought maybe the press might want to ask us a couple of questions after you say a few words. But we had a wonderful time, and I think we've made a lot of progress so far in Switzerland, in Davos.
Oh, that's where you are. Are you sure?
Speech is being reviewed quite nicely.
Again, I don't know where he gets this from. The idea that people think, by and large, the speech was ridiculous and rambling and boring and low energy. And I mean, maybe that's the reason he's got to say this over and over.
And we have a fantastic relationship with Egypt, and the president will call and ask for things, and we always are able to work it out. But
always
the relationship's been very strong, right?
Not as much as obviously Menendez in New Jersey.
From the beginning, from years ago. So I want to thank you very much. Please.
اسمح لي فخامة الرئيس ان انا في البدايه بشكرك على اتاحه الفرصه ان انا لهذه المقابله وان انا اهنيك على عام كامل من الانجازات.
Trump's like, I meant to say something in English.
في فتره ولايتك الثانيه.
Allow me, Mr. President, at the beginning to extend my thanks and appreciation for you for allowing this opportunity to happen.
Oh, that's what he said. It sounded a lot meaner. Well, it sounded a lot meaner when he
I
said
would
it.
like also to congratulate you on a year full of achievements since you came back to office.
اسمح لي فخامة الرئيس ان انا اشكرك ايضا على كل ما حققت فيما يخص ملف من اصعب الملفات اللي مرت على المنطقه هو ملف غزه.
I'd like also to thank you, Mr. President, congratulate you for all the achievement.
Yes, and congrats on your secondhand Nobel Peace Participation Trophy.
Achievements that you've done on one of the toughest files in our part of the world. And this is Gaza.
وانا قلت لك فخامة الرئيس وباكد ده.
Oh, Gaza, right? Yeah, with that thing, I forgot all about that.
قدام
How's my big condo thing going?
زملائنا وقدام الصحافه لولا فخامة الرئيس ترامب لم يكن ابدا يتم ايقاف الحرب في غزه.
I said it before, I reiterate it now, I re-emphasize it before our colleagues and before the media. But for President Trump, we wouldn't have reached an agreement on Gaza.
Because nobody else would let Netanyahu bomb for an extra 10 months under the same terms. They would have changed the terms because of how it changed the metrics and as far as the balance between both parties.
الاستمرار في رعايته لهذا الملف حتى يتحقق الخطة كاملة كما أعلنتم في الحمد الرئيس.
I really would ask you, Mr. President, to continue paying your attention and care. Your attention and care for this file so that the plan should be implemented fully.
لقد أعلنتم من
Yeah, we haven't even gotten to phase 2 yet. We haven't gotten through phase 1.
المرحلة الثانية في خطة الرئيس مهم جدا إن احنا نتحرك فيها بالإيجابية الكاملة وإحنا ستجدوا منا كل ما يمكن عمله من أجل إنجاح هذه الخطة.
So, President, you've announced the second phase of the Gaza plan. This is very important that it comes forward and it takes effect. And on our part, we'll be standing there ready to provide everything that we can to make this a success.
خطة رئيس المجلس احنا
Yes, which they actually have no input in.
يسعدنا إن احنا نبقى موجودين فيه
Can't motivate the Israelis, don't have a relationship with Hamas.
وإن احنا نبذل جهد فيما يخص
That's why Trump arguably picked them.
هذا الملف وأي ملف آخر يؤدي إلى السلام في منطقتنا والعالم.
As for the Council of Peace, it is our pleasure to be on the Council of Peace, the Board of Peace. We are very happy to be on the Board of Peace, and we are supporting.
We feel more peaceful just being on the Board of Peace.
Very
The Water Board of Peace is what we're going to try next.
to be there, backing up every effort that can bring about peace in our part of the world and globally as well.
مش هنسى أيضا فخامة الرئيس إن أنا أشكرك على دعمك لينا في قضية وجودية قضية ملف
I'm waiting for Trump to tell him to wrap it up.
سد النهضة والمياه.
I'd like also to thank you, Mr. President, for your support us in an existential issue. And this is the Grand Renaissance Dam and the River Nile.
وأيضا هنا بسجل مرة أخرى إن ده أمام الصحافة إن فخامة الرئيس يهتم بهذا الملف في منذ ولايته الأولى وحرص على إن هو يقدم الجهد.
He's getting antsy.
للوصول إلى اتفاق فيما يخص هذا السد.
And for the record and before the press, I'd like just to remind everybody that Your Excellency did a lot of effort in this regard, in this file. In your first term in office, and you almost had a deal, and you did everything in your power at the time to get this deal done.
فخامة الرئيس كل التقدير والاحترام لفخامتك.
Mr. President, accept our highest appreciation and respect.
Well, thank you very much. They're talking about the dam that's been built in Ethiopia. It's one of the largest dams in the world, the largest dam in Africa, but it's one of the largest dams anywhere in the world. It was financed by the United States, and it basically blocks the Nile River. You know, when I think of
Oh dear.
I think of Egypt, I think about the Nile.
I know, that's exactly what I think of too. Yeah. Just flowing by the pyramids with these big curlicue boats going through it.
More than
Moses.
any other place, in all fairness, but it goes through Ethiopia. And a dam was built, a very big one, very, very big one, massive. And it was something that should have been talked about a long time ago when they were building it and financing it. So I got involved at the end of my first term, and I was going to have a deal. We were going to have pretty close to a deal. Then we had a rigged election, and I left, and of course Biden didn't know anything about it because he didn't know he was alive. And here I come back, and it's become a very dangerous issue, the dam. And I'll see if I can get that back on track. We were all set to make a deal. We're going to do a joint venture of sorts, and it would have been good. I think it would have been good for both. But it's a dangerous thing. They built a dam where somebody's not getting the water that they are supposed to get and that they've gotten for 1 million years. And all of a sudden the water flow is blocked by a very massive dam. I wouldn't be happy about it. And, you know, you have a very strong leader in the president And we have a strong leader in Ethiopia, too. I don't know him as well as I know you, but he's a strong guy. And I'm going to try bringing the two of you together, see if we can make a deal.
To blow up the dam?
Yeah, I'm sure that. Okay, I think he understands me, right? I think he understands English better than we do. Okay? You know, a lot of these guys...
That's not saying a lot.
Don't understand, they understand. They understand it very well.
You mean like Vladimir Putin, who makes sure that he has translators present, but you don't, and they're really just note takers for the Kremlin?
But I think we'll be able to do something.
Oh my God, this is so low energy.
Thing about the dam. The dam's a big problem, but we'll be able to do something. Most importantly, great leader, great guy.
Let's just wrap this up.
And we're there for each other. Know each other right from before Hillary. It was before Hillary. We met during the campaign with Hillary, and we met at a hotel. She was supposed to meet with the president, and I was supposed to meet. I went first, and after he met me, he didn't want to meet her. And I said, I like that guy. But we had
They had already met.
We've had from that moment.
She was Secretary of State.
Moment on, that was before the election. Yes. We've always had a great relationship, and it continues stronger than ever. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Thank you, everybody. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Press. We have committed to being permanent members of the board. Thank you, Press.
Well, we're going to have a lot. We have a lot of great people that want to join.
Yeah, everybody wants to be on the board of peace / Council of Peace / whatever.
It's going to be the most prestigious board ever formed.
Also, is it just me, or does little Marco look twice as big as Trump right now? What is happening? What kind of Peter Jackson perspective trick is this?
The president is a member.
Little Marco on the right. Trump in the middle.
We have the major countries, and some need parliamentary approval, but for the most part...
Yes, and explanations. They need their parliament, and somebody needs to tell them what the fuck this thing actually is.
Everybody wants to be on. I have a little bit of the opposite problem. People want to be on, and we didn't ask them. They want to get on.
You mean like Russia?
But we'll look at the country. So we're going to have... I think it's the greatest board ever formed.
No doubt. Awesome. In the histories, in the annals of boards. Yeah.
And we call it the Board of Peace. That's what it is. It's the Board of Peace.
Well, that's what it's called. It must be.
It started...
No one would call something the opposite of what it actually is.
On Gaza, and I appreciate what you said on Gaza, because it's true. If we weren't involved, there'd be no peace. It's peace. We have peace in the Middle East now. And you might have Hamas. We have a little flame here and there, but basically that'll be taken out of there.
Basically. I mean, it's like peace with an asterisk.
They don't get rid of the guns, and they'll be... then they will be very unhappy people. You know, we'll have no choice. They will be eliminated. They made a deal.
You've heard of a ceasefire. This would be a peace fire or a cease peace.
Get out. You have Hezbollah in Lebanon. We have to do something there. They're causing a lot of problems, but those are small. We actually have peace in the Middle East, and
yeah, except for Hamas and Hezbollah, and yeah,
the president.
I mean, if you count all the countries that weren't fighting,
was very instrumental. He really helped us, one of the most. And we've had great help from a number of countries, but Egypt has been great. The president's been great. And we have peace in the Middle East. It's an amazing...
Do we have peace in the Middle East? Has he brought that up? I feel like you should hammer that home.
Nobody thought we'd ever see that.
Yeah, we still
Now,
don't.
I would say if we didn't bomb the Iran nuclear plant...
You wouldn't have peace without bombing. Thank you. I agree.
They would have had a nuclear weapon within 2 months. You would not have peace in the Middle East. You wouldn't be able to. Nobody would be able to do that. But that's what gave us peace in the Middle East.
I see. So he created peace in the Middle East literally by bombing Iran.
Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you, Press. Thank you, Press. Let's go.
So he's having little gaggles like that on the side, complete jerk-offs, all of them to the person. That was the NATO Secretary General. Okay. This one I got to see, because apparently Glenn is in his pajamas and he's not happy with Pam Bondi, and I can't imagine why. I mean, so far flawless execution of Trump's priorities
about Pam Bondi. And let me,
and none of it.
Let me just start with this. Just to be fair, we gave the DOJ some notice. We said, Glenn has addressed criticism the DOJ has fallen short of MAGA's expectations for justice over the past year. Glenn wants to give the DOJ the benefit of the doubt and present his audience with reasons why there might be a backlog. One of those reasons being the amount of district attorneys. It's actually, I think, federal.
Sorry, this is where he tries to give Pam Bondi and them an excuse as to why they suck. And what he wants to use as an excuse is, please tell us that Democrats are holding up district attorneys that we want, so that's why we haven't brought charges, not because of a directive coming from Pam Bondi herself.
Investigators that Democratic senators are holding up in confirmation. You have the number estimate of federal prosecutors that are being held up by Democrats. Deadline is 8 a.m., blah, blah, blah.
He gave her a deadline, like, you got to answer my questions by this time because I got to say it on the radio tomorrow. Otherwise, I got to tell you a new
We have not received anything.
Gee, it's almost like they don't consider you worthwhile, Glenn. If I were you, I would take that personally.
And I say that because it's not unusual for us not to get a response from the DOJ.
It's also not unusual to be loved by anyone.
For instance, we have yet to receive anything from our FOIA.
Maybe it was how it was written. Was it not significantly Trump ass-kissy enough?
The Jeffrey Epstein case.
Gee, I wonder why that would be.
I don't know if I've ever mentioned this, but when I saw what was happening with the Epstein case, I noticed there seemed to be a real tiff between Dan Bongino and Pam Bondi.
Yeah, you think?
And so I know there had to be things that were being exchanged back and forth.
Or maybe it was just a Cold War. Maybe they were just giving each other the cold shoulder.
And that would help us.
It was the cold shoulder war.
Get to what really happened. So
Trump ordered Pam to cover up his connection with Jeffrey Epstein, and there's so much of it that it's impossible to release the documents without it becoming obvious to anyone except the most insane Roseanne level Trump suck up that he and Epstein were in it together. They were basically partners.
We requested copies, including, this is actually from the FOIA that we put out July 11th, copies of all records, including but not limited to emails, memorandums, notes, text messages, correspondence.
So right after the memo.
Meeting minutes, call logs, or any other communications sent or received by Dan Bongino that mention, discuss, or relate to any of the following topics: the Epstein files, Jeffrey Epstein's client list, any documents, investigations, or releases related to Jeffrey Epstein's activities, associate, or estate.
Huh. And they didn't give you that stuff? And they didn't just send you a note going, hey, asshole, you like Trump. His name's all over this shit. We can't give it to you. Otherwise, people will know he's a pederast.
Pam Bondi, the Attorney General, DOJ, Kash Patel. This includes communication where these topics are discussed in combination. Bongino's references to the Epstein files in context of Bondi or Patel or individually. The search should include any electronic or paper records in Bongino's custody.
Did they send you a giant N and a giant O, or a giant F and a giant U?
As well as those involving him as the sender.
I'm going with the latter.
A sender, recipient, or CC/BCC participant. The time period of this request is from November 5th, 2024 until present day, July 11th, 2024.
Oh, so when the material conspiracy could actually start.
25 are requesting these records in the
and you're saying they didn't send you
public
anything.
interest as they pertain to a high-profile promises made by Bongino, Bondi, and Patel regarding transparency on Epstein-related matters.
Yeah, but that was just bullshit, Joel.
Which have been widely discussed in the
both wildly and widely
media and public forums. Disclosure would contribute to public understanding of government operations,
Yes, and maybe that's part of the problem, too. They don't want you to know how it works, which is Trump going, don't show that.
Ability and potential conflicts of interest involving senior officials. I am not seeking these records for commercial purposes. I request a waiver of all fees associated, blah, 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 blah.
Wait, you didn't even want to pay for the copies of shit?
Crickets. We have not heard a thing.
Huh. So she just thinks you're an asshole. Well, look, hey, Pam Bondi, broken clock moment.
From the DOJ.
Mm-hmm.
It is my right as a journalist to request,
journalist in air quotes,
with a FOIA request, the government.
Right, but it's not their responsibility to give you everything you want, and you have to prove your case as to why if they push back against it all, and you you clearly have the legal means through your lawyers to file a follow-up.
Is supposed to respond quickly.
Yes, I know. I asked for the same shit a long time ago, and you'll be shocked to know they blew me off as well.
To a FOIA request. Usually they do. When they
not in my case
don't respond quickly to a FOIA request, it sometimes can be dragged out for a very long time.
Yeah, I think that's the entire strategy, shithead.
Because the government doesn't want to do it. And so
the government doesn't? The whole government, everybody who works in the FAA and the CDC and everybody who works in the agricultural department, they all have gotten together and they was it a majority vote? They voted down. Trump desperately wants to release this stuff, but everybody else that runs all the other cabinets and Marco Rubio and everybody was like, nah, boss, we got to vote against this. Or Trump is specifically in it, so he's telling Pam Bondi, who he put in that job, to protect
so
him.
they'll come up with all kinds of excuses.
Yeah, I think the obvious one being that Trump is in them.
I would think that a DOJ that wants to let the American people know what's going on
that's probably the problem.
Would have honored that FOIA request.
Yeah, but that's not these people.
But again, it's not unusual
to be loved by anyone.
So let me first make a case. I want to make two sides of this case.
Yes. Like both cheeks, and then you can just kiss Trump right in the middle.
And the one I believe is that Pam Bondi needs to be replaced.
I'm sorry, by who? By somebody who hold on, my stool is sliding down because I'm a big boy. So, replaced with who? Yet another sycophant? Who the fuck do you think? He was going to put Matt Gaetz in that spot. You think Matt Gaetz would have released this shit? He's probably in it.
Right now. But I want to make a case that, wait a minute, there might be some things we don't understand.
Yes, like Donald Trump is Jeffrey Epstein's one and only friend.
So you...
And sorry, I beg your pardon. You said understand. I know you understand that. I don't know. You want an answer that gives you plausible deniability, so you don't have to admit that Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein were like this, and this was Epstein on top.
You can make your own decision. And no straw man arguments. I'll give you both sides of this. First, let me make a case for accountability and action and why patience at some point can become complicity.
Yeah, this isn't about patience. They're actively hiding it. They're not just dragging their feet.
A republic doesn't die only from chaos. It dies from tolerance of the intolerable.
Look, dude, I actually think America is kind of partly built on the concept of tolerance of the intolerable. That's why we have free speech. It can get pretty ugly sometimes, but it beats not having that freedom. So no, it's tolerance of the intolerable is just, part of the burden of freedom, I think, some of the time.
There comes a point when process stops being prudence and becomes protection.
Yes, the moment Pam Bondi was hired.
And that's what I'm concerned about.
No, you're not concerned about that. If you were concerned about that, you never would have supported Donald Trump. Are you out of your mind?
We are in this place to where protection is happening.
What? When did what? How?
And history is merciless on this question of where this line is. The Roman Senate, they didn't fall just because they lacked laws.
They were fucked to death by the Vikings after they ate food off of lead-lined plates.
They weren't enforcing it. The laws were enforced selectively. Politicians, the Senate,
Gee, what does that sound like? Maybe that's what he means. Maybe Trump thinks America was great in during the time of the Roman Empire.
But he delayed.
Honestly, I think he thinks America was around then. I think he has no sense of history.
And so there was no justice, and the people noticed that.
Yeah, how could you not? There's dung in the streets. There's marauding Eastern Europeans and Vikings and people rolling through and kicking your ass. And then there's the Muslim expansion and all this stuff. And in the middle of it, you're like, hey, this says no parking. It doesn't say senators can park their fucking... Oh, sorry, why am I being arrested?
That's when people stop believing in the republic. So faith collapses before an empire or a country does.
Right, but a lot of these countries were held together with a shoestring, and the biggest thing that they'd actually built was architecture. They hadn't, I mean, they didn't have any of the modern connective tissue that we do that creates resilience.
Same thing over and over throughout history. I don't need to bore you with all of the details.
Because you don't know them?
But this is the moment that we're living in right now.
What?
When small offenders are jailed swiftly.
Right. Like you're saying, like innocent immigrants are rounded up in the street. Meanwhile, Trump's pedo buddies go free because he's taking active measures to make sure that they go free by yelling at people like Marjorie Taylor Greene and Lauren Boebert for signing on to the discharge petition and telling Pam Bondi, to obfuscate, hide, or destroy evidence.
When the IRS will hire 85,000 agents,
mostly to deal with money laundering overseas. And by the way, if that money had existed, I bet you a lot of the fraud in Minneapolis would have been discovered before it got too far. You know what I mean? It's interesting that one of the reasons why this stuff slips through is because there was nobody there to look. Maybe it was a personnel issue partly.
To go over your records.
Nope, not aimed at the average person, unless maybe he's just talking to another senior executive at the Blaze who's sitting across the table who also is a multimillionaire.
But nobody will talk about
Donald Trump.
Hunter Biden. No one.
Sorry, they talked about Hunter Biden for years and came up with shit.
We'll talk about the Clintons. No one will talk about any.
You've been talking about the Clintons forever, too. That failed in the 90s.
Anybody in power. Those just get swept away.
You mean Donald Trump, the president of the United States currently?
When process crimes are aggressively pursued, when whistleblowers are crushed, which they have been, but sprawling, massive, well-documented corruption in government produces years of nothing but hearings.
Well, you got two problems here. One is you were bullshitted into thinking there was corruption where there was none, especially around Joe Biden and his alleged crime family and all. You bought into that shit. So you think that crime has gone unpunished when, in fact, they dug into it as much as they could and found no crime. And on the other side, it is blatantly obvious that Donald Trump is involved in a myriad of corrupt practices, crypto pump and dump schemes, like forcing dips in the economy and in the stock market strictly so his friends could buy in when they want to, feathering his own nest, getting a free airplane from Qatar and making a deal with the UAE for a $5 billion golf. I don't even know if it's a course at this point. It just seems like a money laundering exercise. The fact that you can't attribute any of this to Trump, and yet he is literally in charge of all this shit, especially in charge of what Pam Bondi does. You think she's going to act without his permission? And you think anything that she does isn't going to be cleared by him first?
And no results on those hearings.
Well, again, because half of what you were looking for is complete horseshit, and you refuse to look at the stuff that's obvious on your side. So it must sound incredibly frustrating when you bullshit yourself that much.
Okay. When that happens.
Like, this is really aggravating. Chat room, I gotta say, like, the fact that this dipshit thinks that Pam Bondi is more guilty of hiding what Hunter Biden did at this point than what Trump did with Jeffrey Epstein. I don't know how you actually operate with that level of cognitive dissonance. You might, it's got to give you migraines or something.
The public starts to say, you know what, I'm going to draw a conclusion
that Trump is surrounding himself with co-conspirators at every turn, as he always has
here. And it's not irrational to do it. It's not hysterical to do it. But people see this pattern and go, the whole system is rigged.
No, the whole system isn't rigged. Republicans, suck at fabricating crimes, and their real skill apparently lays in obfuscating evidence of their own crimes. And part of the way that they do that, one of the strategies they do, is they paint other people with the same criminal brush. He calls Fani Willis a fraud. He'll call Comey a fraud. He'll call the climate change a hoax. Everything's a hoax. The affordability is a hoax, and the Russia hoax, right? So everything falls in that category, so that it becomes kind of a wash, as if it's this tit for tat fighting, and nobody's really right. So he creates that illusion, and then you guys are pissed when they dig as far as they can, and they can't fucking find anything. There's nothing to be found. But when it comes to Trump, they won't even look. They're hiding evidence. They're specifically, actively violating the law to hide evidence. And to you, that's just kind of like, well, it's the same. It's the same as what happened with Hunter, except they're like, shit, at this point, it almost sounds like if Pam Bondi released this stuff, they'd accuse her of lawfare against the president.
And that's the end of a republic. And that's why Pam Bondi needs to answer or be replaced. We must have the information that the American people can trust.
Yeah, but do you think Trump is going to allow anybody to be in her position and give you the information you're looking for? That's the problem. Like, I don't get this disconnect. Do you think she uniquely came in there to fuck up everything? That this is just about her being ineffective? And Trump's desperately like, hey, why isn't all the Epstein stuff out? How can you be this blind to this? And I don't think Glenn is a good actor at all. I think he's a decent bullshit artist sometimes. But in this particular case, like, how do you gap Trump's involvement in this at every turn?
So let me just tell you, these are the things that just drive me out of my mind.
What's left?
That Pam Bondi needs to answer for.
How about Donald Trump? He's her fucking boss.
And be replaced for.
By another Trump sycophant? Who the fuck do you think he's going to put in there?
First, the Epstein case.
Yeah, okay. Again, Trump is not going to hire somebody who's better at releasing the Epstein files than Pam Bondi, when he's directly telling her, don't release this shit. When he's bringing in Congress people on his own side of the aisle and screaming at them not to sign onto the discharge petition. You think it's her? Like, Pam Bondi is a completely ineffective dipshit, and she certainly has been one of the co-conspirators with Epstein, in that she could have torn up that non-prosecution agreement about unidentified co-conspirators, which is completely illogical, completely illegal, and obviously unconstitutional and absurd, and certainly the kind of like assertion of power that the founding fathers were fighting against. I don't get it. I really don't. Maybe he follows it up. Maybe at some point he's like, this has got to be Trump's fault. And if he won't fire her, he's got to go. That's the only natural conclusion here. If you don't get there, if you don't go, Pam Bondi's got to be fired for this. And if she doesn't, then it's because Trump wants her to be there and do exactly this. And then he has to be impeached. That's the only logical line here.
That's the dumbest thing I've ever seen. I've never seen anybody handle anything. No, I take that back. Joe Biden. He handled his entire administration the way Pam Bondi has handled the Epstein case.
No. Joe Biden passed a rescue package, the CHIPS and Science Act, and the first infrastructure bill in 27 years. Keep his fucking name out of your mouth, you fucking chimp. Trump can't even ride a fucking bicycle.
It is honestly like she's like, I got all the information on my desk right here.
It's just his excuse to do old man voice. Really not a good look when Trump is slobbering all over the place, doing the slack jog all the time because his brain is failing.
What am I doing here? I mean, it was almost that bad. I've got all the information, and you're going to see it tomorrow. It's set right here on my desk. And then nothing.
Gee, it's almost like she was instructed not to. Or was hired because the person that hired her knew he wouldn't have to instruct her.
Why did you say that, Pam? You have to tell the American people because you were bluffing, because you hadn't done your homework, because you were looking for press that night. Why would you say that and then have nothing? And then the next day...
I'll tell you why. Because she was under the impression, because she's stupid, that she was hired to actually do this. And then Trump started putting the screws to her.
Say, well, I don't have it because the FBI in New York, they won't release it. They're holding the documents. And then not send FBI to the FBI office and arrest those people that would not turn over the records that you said they were holding.
Because they weren't.
Why didn't that happen?
Because they weren't. Because she was lying about why she couldn't release the stuff. Because she couldn't give you an honest answer, which is Trump told me not to.
I personally think
this is fucking so insane. This is so nuts. How do you not connect Trump to any of this? As close as he was to Epstein, it's like, I'd understand if like he had as much connection as Bill Clinton in that he'd been on the plane a few times for charity fundraisers, that they had flown together and it was a little sketchy, but he'd never been to the island or whatever it was. But I mean, first of all, Trump didn't have to go to the island because Epstein brought the island to him. They were never more than a 9-minute cab ride from each other. But they spent tons of time together. Him and David Copperfield and and Dershowitz, who he hired for his own legal team, who was, got a massage at Jeffrey Epstein's house from allegedly someone who was of age, which is garbage. I mean, it's insane. It doesn't, it would seem like you go like, okay, go to the estate and find the employment records for the massage therapist that gave you a massage then. Don't just tell me it was an old lady. Clear your fucking name. And if these are legal documents where they paid somebody, they're going to have some record of it. If this person was hired to work at the house.
It was just another lie or gaffe from you. It
wasn't a gaffe. The original, I think the gaffe part of it was her thinking that this was an honest job at some point, or that her job was to bullshit, that they had already corralled all the evidence, that she knew what was there and she knew what she could release, and they weren't going to ask for any more. That law wasn't a factor at the time. So she had a lot more room to bullshit. And then this law came along and forced her to release all this stuff. And suddenly that memo that she released is an absolute lie, which is why she didn't sign it. So why Patel didn't sign it. So why Bongholio didn't sign it. There's no name signed on that memorandum. Why is that? Because they knew it wouldn't hold up in court and they would be liable.
So you were incompetent and not ready to deal with it, and you opened your mouth. That's what I think happened.
What's the incompetent part? What's the standard for competence? Protecting the president?
That's the best, and that's the kindest I can get.
No, you're being incredibly kind to Donald Trump, who directed this shit, stupid.
So the Jeffrey Epstein thing, complete bungling of it.
No. I will not allow you to besmirch Pam Bondi's name. She's not bungling it. She's following orders. She's doing exactly the job the President of the United States has told her to do. She didn't bungle it. This isn't a fuck up. The only fucked up part is when she thought initially that he was honest and that he was okay with releasing this stuff. But apparently, the more she looked through it, the more she realized, oh, we can't do this, because he'll get impeached by his own party and he'll go to fucking jail. And he gave me this job. And his followers are fucking dangerous. She didn't bungle this. This is the gig.
The lack of criminal prosecution for James Comey, for Clapper, for the lying under oath on so many things, but let's just say Russiagate.
Yeah, they didn't lie. Those weren't lies. It's been adjudicated left and right. Mueller wasn't even allowed to look into the finances, which would bring the motive to this whole thing. So the fact that a case wasn't brought is not them lying. It's that the investigation into Trump was literally stymied by his White House at that time. This is the same thing. You're never going to bring Comey to justice on any of this shit, stupid.
Collusion with the press and the use of the release of secret information to the press. We know it. We have the memos. We've seen the memos.
Right, and they're not incriminating.
Why hasn't anybody been charged?
Well, the statute of limitations has run out because if there was a crime in the first place, which I would posit there is not, and she didn't bring them because she was too busy redacting the Epstein files.
Why haven't these two been charged? Ricky, can you tell me, have they even lost their national security clearances?
Oh, I don't think they have, but I'll
so.
double check that
Can
while
you
you're
just check?
going off.
Yeah,
yes.
Just check. Yeah.
While you're going off. By the way, did he kick Stu out? Is that the big change that came?
Okay. Next, the lack of criminal prosecution against Adam Schiff or the New York Attorney General Letitia James.
Because there's no case?
Or anyone else that tried to weaponize the justice system against political opponents. Most prominently, that would be Trump.
Oh, I'll tell you. I'll tell you why. Because if you bring a case against them, then you have to deal with re-adjudicating the entire case. Because in their defense, they would get to make the entire case as to why they believed what they believed and why they were pursuing the investigation they were pursuing in the first place, which would in effect create an entire public trial where all that evidence would come out and people would realize after a while that, oh, it wasn't that they were, gacking up charges against him. It's that Trump stymied those investigations to protect himself. And so he doesn't want to, if he brings those cases, the discovery process would fuck him up.
Where is any case on that?
I'll tell you what it is. It's up Trump's ass. Go digging.
And you know what? If you don't have a case,
they don't.
Say you don't have a case.
They can't. Trump just wants you to think they have a case for all time. He can bitch about it, but he won't file anything because once it actually happens under oath and he gets deposed, which would happen in any of these cases, he would get deposed. They would get to show the evidence that they have. Some of it would be secret because of the level of their job at the time. They would have to, they'd go through this whole process where a special master or somebody else would have to be appointed to look at this evidence. And then it would become abundantly obvious if the judge saw it and was like, yeah, this is germane to it and is no longer a secret. It would prove that he was exactly what they said he was, a Russian asshat.
But don't just leave it hanging out there.
Why? That's exactly what they want. That's what keeps the Benny Johnsons of the world afloat.
Lack of arrests for various Democratic scandals, including the Russia collusion hoax.
Yeah, you've said that again and again and again. Like I said, you do realize this would require like the evidence that came from this would be the entire Mueller report, unpublished evidence that comes from it, the indictments that came through the other people who were actually indicted under it, the 7 or 12 people that were actually indicted, and the case against them. And he'd have to relitigate this whole thing and he would lose.
Where's that?
Up your ass. It's ridiculous. If he's not bringing it, it's because he knows he'll lose. And he knows that they're like re-adjudicating this in front of the public would bring more stuff to light than the actual case because they'd be able to kick stuff out if the case was against him from a defense standpoint. But since somebody else is the defendant in this case, whether it's Comey or anybody else, they would be able to use this information in their own defense. Why did you believe this person was committing a crime at the time? And why did you pursue this? Because of this, and this, Your Honor, and this. And here's a bunch of shit that they wouldn't allow us to talk about, but was absolutely verified. But his own White House at that time did this. So there's more signs of obstruction of justice, even from when we were doing the case at the time.
The Mar-a-Lago raid?
Completely justified.
I mean, we keep finding out it's worse and worse and worse, and nothing happened.
First of all, no, you don't. You do not keep finding out it was worse and worse and worse. You just, all right, again, you just don't. Nobody got, like, it's always been the same raid. They looked in drawers, they put stuff back. They didn't spill stuff on the ground to make him look like a slob. They took stuff out of a box that he had hidden in between pictures and laid it on the ground, put a little tent next to it and said, here's the evidence that was in this box. We put it back in there and we put the box in the truck. Like every other investigation. It was completely above board.
How about the 2020 election fraud?
There wasn't any.
That's scandal.
Well, except Trump's. A bunch of maggots voting 6 times in the villages.
At least the lack of investigations into and answers on whether there was fraud.
The guy's in office right now. He's got every tool in government to prove this information. And besides, the only way he could is if he fabricated evidence. And if there is evidence of it and he has access to it, the fact that he doesn't show it means that it was either there was fraud and it was him committing it, or there simply wasn't any. And he would rather have you, when he says there was fraud, just bump that along and just assume it's true rather than prove it in a court of law. Because every time they try to do that, Rudy Giuliani failed, in every court he was in to prove that there was anything. The only two guys he brought a case against Philadelphia were people in northern Pennsylvania in a MAGA county that had their mail-in votes kicked out. And they, as a remedy, they didn't want their 2 votes counted. They wanted all the mail-in votes in Philly kicked out. Get the fuck out of here.
Nothing? You got nothing. A year in, you got nothing.
Yes, right. They got nothing. There is nothing. And the more they look, the worse it looks for them. Every time they did this and they dug in, they found more Biden votes that were thrown out that were legit than Trump votes by far, if any.
Okay.
No, not okay. Where is the circuit in your fucking pea brain that doesn't grasp that the reason they're not doing this is because they don't want it adjudicated in court? Because the minute it is, it will be asked and answered, and they will look like shit. They will fail in their case, or they will look guilty of exactly what they're projecting on other people themselves.
How about the lack of action regarding Doge's fraud findings? A lot of fraud there.
Nope. Just shit you don't like.
Who went to jail? Who are you even considering putting in jail?
No one. What's the fraud you're talking about?
Do you know how much money has been stolen from the American people? And it appears our DOJ doesn't give a flying crap.
Well, first of all, Trump is stealing more money than that every single day, than that accumulated in the entire time there. There are constant audits about it. What you're talking about is programs you just don't think are justified. That's not fraud. That's just stuff you don't like. It's a lack of, political disagreement about budgetary items. That's not fraud.
You can't have a country run like this. You can't.
Well, I agree when it comes to Donald Trump. It's just fascinating you won't put that together.
Yeah. And Pam, that's your responsibility.
Nope, it's Donald Trump's responsibility. He hired her.
That's your responsibility.
Nope, it's Donald Trump's responsibility. He hired her.
Responsibility. Where are all the arrests and investigations into all the state and federal government that participated in the Somali fraud? I know you're going and you're getting the Somali.
There's a bunch of them.
You got some Russians, and I congratulate you on that. But I want to see the people that were involved at the airport. I want to see the bankers that knew. I want to see the people that turned a blind eye. I want to see people who...
Well, I think that's a matter of regulations. Apparently, that's not against the law to have a suitcase full of money leaving the country. And if it's a federal thing, then I guess it would matter who hired the people that were in charge at the time. And a good portion of those, because it was during 2020, when the fraud started, when the money started going out the door, when the contracts were handed out, because everybody was caught up in COVID. It sounds like that's what gave them the cover. And it sounded like Trump said, don't check.
Actually planned it. Where is that? I know you're only a year into it. How long do we have to wait here?
Forever.
How about the failure to drain the swamp on
Drain the swamp? Dude, he was piping in water from the Everglades.
The deep state actors working against the American people and their elected officials?
You elected a bunch more of them. What are you talking about?
Do we have anything on that?
Why would they police themselves this way? Trump's administration is the swampiest in history. After his last cabinet.
Anything.
Oh, by the way, a lot of what you believe about the people working in government, federal employees and the like, that you think are deep state actors or the swamp or something like that, are simply people who are put there to make sure that the law that Congress passes is actually like followed in terms of what the administration and other parts of government do. And if they want to change it, they have to change the law, not the bureaucracy.
The failure to prosecute anyone involved in the Biden era weaponization of government.
Oh, because they didn't.
Dare I even say COVID?
Sorry, that thing that happened when Trump was president that he said would go away like snot on a fucking banister in the sun when the sun comes out, or if you shove a light bulb up your ass.
The unjust.
Are you saying that didn't work?
FACE Act arrests? Everything the Twitter files exposed about what the government was doing, where is a single arrest?
There wouldn't be any arrests. Twitter is a private company, and it has the right to listen to the government when it gives it a warning or ignore it. And Twitter had both abilities. Sometimes when the FBI said, hey, this account is fake, you should kick it off, they did. And sometimes when the FBI said it, they didn't, which means they had choice in it, which means they had editorial control over the site itself. And it's a private organization. It's not publicly traded, so they can do whatever the fuck they want. It's not the public square, you goddamn commie.
Where and when will someone pay for any of this?
Well, since most of it is fiction, when it comes to the stuff you're accusing Democrats of doing, and all of the real crimes you're pointing out about what the Trump administration is doing comes straight from Donald Trump, and you can't even mention his fucking name, I'm going to go with never. And it has nothing to do with Pam Bondi.
How about Biden's auto pen scandal?
It's not a scandal.
Where the hell's that?
It's not a scandal. It's made up. Trump used the auto pen as well. All presidents do. There is no evidence whatsoever that Biden's team used his auto pen without his permission to sign off on bills or fucking, I don't know, a comment I mean, I'm not even sure, pardons or whatever. All he had to do was look at the list and go, this is okay, and they could auto pen him. That's enough. Also, thanks to the SCOTUS, you can't even question whether the president did something or what his motivation was. So that's never going to happen. And anybody who carried it out can go, the president said so. And we've got his signature on this piece of paper that says these are okay because he reviewed them, so we can auto pen all the paperwork on them. Because there was, not only does he have to sign them, there's like initials and stuff like that, shit to do. So we would go through the list with him during our meeting, and then the meeting would go over, and then that's how they would do it. Just like Trump does with a myriad of other things.
How about this? How about...
Oh, man, this is just getting worse all the time. By the way, the biggest reason for all this shit is that if any of this shit that you're talking about that affects Trump gets inside a courtroom, the discovery process would be murder for your side.
How about the lies that happened under oath by the Capitol Police, proven to be lies by videotape about January 6th?
Like what?
January 6th. What about the pipe bomber? Definitely not that guy. We got this guy over here. Uh-huh.
Sorry. So the FBI under Kash Patel and Pam Bondi have captured a patsy. And that's somehow the government as a whole. That's just how that's a failure of the DOJ, not a conspiracy by Trump's DOJ. So I'm sorry. Is that the assertion here? Hold on. Say that again.
About January 6th. January 6th. What about the pipe bomber? Definitely not that guy. We got this guy over here. Uh-huh. 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 What about the FBI?
No. What the fuck? Not uh-huh. What the fuck is your case here? The guy, he confessed. So the assertion here is that the Pam Bondi and Kash Patel just found a patsy nearby and just threw him to the wolves to protect, I guess, a Democratic CIA operative Capitol Police officer lady who actually did it. Is that the case? Although he said he and he, so I don't even understand what the fucking reasoning is here. They caught him. He's going to jail. This would seemingly be one of the pluses you'd think that was a success for the FBI under Patel. But the assurance here is that Pam Bondi is helping hide who was really behind it. Now, why would she do that if that person wasn't specifically, if that whole plot also, and whoever the bomber themselves were originally, wasn't there to benefit Donald Trump?
By lying about the number of agents that were actually there at January 6th.
There weren't agents.
Going to do anything about that?
They didn't lie about it. There are informants there. Those aren't agents. The FBI has agents and special agents. That's not who was there. The people who were in the crowd were informants. Because a lot of them were maggots who went, oh shit, this is getting out of hand. The people that I came here with are freaking out and beating up police officers.
Here's one of my favorites.
Also, by the way, no, he breezes past this. Fuck you and this nonsense. There were not FBI agents in that crowd telling them to attack the Capitol. You dough-headed son of a bitch. This is the most ridiculous argument they keep making over and over again. And the bigger explanation is, why would 3,000 maggots attack the fucking Capitol because 9 people whispered in their ear and went, we should attack and try to kill Mike Pence? Instead of going, the fuck, you get away from me. Why wouldn't that be the reaction? I'm an American, goddammit. I'm just here to make my voice heard. Instead of going, oh, good idea. Let's build a gallows. Shut the fuck up.
This is a recent hit. The lack of going after the Clintons for non-Epstein related reasons, like Gazprom and Uranium One. We got that one dead to rights.
No, you don't. You don't have it dead to rights. A bunch of different boards signed off on that deal, and it was a Canadian deal in the first place. And they didn't give away all of our uranium. Shut the fuck up.
Benghazi, dead to rights.
Nope. She sat for 11 hours. 11 hours.
Hillary's email server, dead to rights.
No, you don't. The State Department's servers were hacked during that time. Petraeus's email was hacked. Colin Powell's email was hacked. You know what was never hacked? Hillary Clinton's fucking server. Her server was more secure than the State Department. And the 30,000 emails that disappeared, no such thing as a disappearing email, you dumb motherfucker. They exist somewhere. You could wipe the server it's initially on, but it's going to be on a dozen other sites if it was sent or received. It's an email.
Claims of fraud in Haiti with the Clinton initiative, dead to rights.
Yes, dead to rights claims. Meanwhile, by the way, as soon as the Clinton initiative gets shut down effectively in Haiti, that's when Haiti becomes a failed state.
Anything the Clinton Foundation has touched, I'm pretty sure you can find something. And what?
No, you can't. Like what, you dumb motherfucker? Like what? This is so fucking lazy.
What happens? You don't.
And again, he'll just do these drive-by sentences. He's done entire shows on this shit, but then he'll do this drive-by sentence like, we got him dead to rights. And no, you don't. You never did. You got a bunch of bizarre accusations because you just don't like what they're doing and you don't like them and you attribute evil to what they're trying to do because meanwhile, Donald Trump's family can't even operate a fucking charity in their home state because they were ripping off St. Jude's, because Donald Trump would show up at a charity ball or something like that and insist on sitting on stage with everybody else when he wasn't even a goddamn donor. He used charity money to buy portraits of himself and put it in fucking Mar-a-Lago.
Do anything. God
damn, this is so lazy and stupid. And the only thing about it is that if you just replace Trump with Bondi, this would make sense. Because you would eventually come to the conclusion that, oh shit, the reason they're not making a case against Democrats is because we would be murdered in the discovery process. And the reason we're not letting the Epstein files out is because his name's all over them. That's it.
Congress has a little show trial to enrage the left and the right based on a fishing expedition that you're not going to get anything from, except you're going to get people riled up on teams. That's not helpful to the Republic.
Sorry, I don't even know which one he's talking about.
How about the lack of apparent investigations into George Soros and all of his foundations?
Trump hired the guy who helped him with his initial currency exchange scheme that made him a billionaire. Scott Bessent works in the fucking White House, dummy. You think Trump doesn't like George Soros? Are you shitting me?
I know you're just starting that. Can we get an update at all? Why does this man have so much influence in our politics? Everyone knows. And there's zero pushback from anybody in power.
Because he donates and he has the right to do it? As long as you disclose you're getting money and you started a foundation for the money to go through? There are a lot of malign actors that do this shit. Here's the question. Why aren't you this mad about Russian money in the NRA? Why?
I mean, you could go back to the Ukraine color revolution of 2014.
No, you couldn't.
No, which, of course, led them to try to impeach Trump. But, you know.
Sorry, the color revolution in 2014, first of all, they're using color revolution as if this is like a rerun at the Cultural Revolution, or Chinese trying to layer that language to make it sound like it was some sort of communist fucking uprising or left-wing uprising because these people want to have their own free country. But it led to that. Why would it lead to that? Because Trump's in Putin's pocket.
The lack of investigations in COVID is astounding. No one went to jail. You know how many people died? Because you all colluded. You colluded. You knew this was untested. You knew it had dangers. You didn't tell us about it.
Oh, he means the vaccines, not the actual disease. And this is partly because these assholes believe China's numbers. So they think we had the most deaths in the world. And when you think we had the most deaths in the world and the country where it came from only had 4,000 deaths, of course you think that the deaths were related to the cure and not more than the disease, because we had the cure first. So when you realize that there is no way that there are less than 25 million people that died in China, and the number's close to 250 million people died because of COVID, then you'd recognize that the alternative could have been horrifying, could have eliminated half the population in the United States.
Instead, you said you have to take it.
No, they didn't. You just had to take it if you were going to go out during a certain period of time. There are a bunch of people who never took it, and they didn't go to jail. No one was rounded up for not taking the shot.
Nobody goes to jail for
that. No, for violating Operation Fart Steed. No,
that. No one pays a price. How many people in this world, let alone this country, died because of that? And by the way,
because of the disease and not getting vaccinated?
What about buddying up with China and being partially responsible for COVID?
Oh, you mean Donald Trump allowing gain-of-function research to go ahead after Obama had shut it down? Let me say that again. After Obama had shut down gain-of-function research, Donald Trump allowed it to go ahead 2 years before we had COVID. Timing's interesting, isn't it?
Is anybody going to pay a price for that? Or?
No, because Pam Bondi works for Donald Trump.
Or do we just not care? Because it's science.
Thank you for
Jesus Christ.
thinking for yourself and being part of a movement, because that's really what all of this is.
Well, I'm sorry, you raising a bunch of, like, Lee Harvey Oswald?
If you want the full story, you want to go deeper, go to blazetv.com/Glenn.
Oh, my God. What do you mean deeper? There was no depth here at all. Ooh. That was particularly fucking bad. Good Lord. All right, one more. How am I doing on time? I'm a little over, but that's okay. If you guys don't mind. One more thing. Yeah, this bit. We've been seeing a bunch of these like pro-Kremlin videos from Tucker Carlson, but this one just looks like Tucker's offering to blow Vladimir Putin, and even Putin is shocked. Russia has plans to nuke Europe Former Putin advisor tells Tucker.
If there were nuclear strikes from Russia into Europe in the next year or two, as you said there may be, what countries would that include?
But my choice would be Britain and Germany.
Tucker Carlson in an interview with this advisor to Putin, and he told him that they're willing to do nuclear war. Let's listen.
Yeah, they say this all the time. They've been saying this forever.
Listen a little bit of this.
But none of those concerns.
So all the concerns.
Oh, by the way, this is the video that we saw, and then it leads to this guy that he was interviewing. Remember that like odd fucking Putin nutsuck monologue that Tucker did? That's in lead up to him interviewing this guy that Jimmy's playing this. And Jimmy's basically like, we should leave Ukraine to get fucked because Putin is threatening again to destroy Europe.
That we've been talking about. None of them, according to Tucker.
Instead of, this is a great reason to have like ABMs all over Europe.
Even close to what's happening in Eastern Europe, what's happening between Russia and Ukraine. Russia, and prepare yourselves because this is the global headline, Russia is actively considering the use of nuclear weapons against Europe.
They've been thinking about that. They've been talking about this for fucking 3.5 years, actively, all the time. This is they've said this a dozen times. I don't know how many fucking clips we've covered of this nonsense.
Not against Kiev, against Europe, specifically the UK and Germany. Just taking out the UK and Germany with nuclear weapons.
Which would result in a barrage of nuclear weapons striking Russia. Would it entail China cutting off all connection with them? And it would lead to the total obliteration of their country.
That's a fact.
That's an idiocy.
Now, we're going to explain why we know that that's true. In a moment. And at the end of this open, we're going to play an interview we did a few hours ago with a man called Sergei Karnagov, who is
one of your handlers,
longtime
friend of yours,
political advisor to Vladimir Putin, and one of the most famous public intellectuals in Russia,
which is, an oxymoron.
Been around for about 35 years.
So here's what he actually said. So Tucker asks him,
they're talking about that. What is defeat of Russia?
What is the defeat of Russia? So they're talking about this. So Europe wants to defeat Russia?
No. This is Russia's fantasy about everybody wants us. We're so fucking hot. It's the same disease Donald Trump has. It's like malignant narcissist idea of the world revolves around us and everybody else is jealous. Instead of, no, you just invaded a country. If you got the fuck out, people would go back to not giving a shit about you.
So does NATO. So what is the defeat? What does it look like? And here's what he says.
Just if Russia comes ever close to a defeat, that would mean that Russia now would use nuclear weapons and the Europe will be finished physically. So, it's simply impossible even to think about it. But they have been talking because they need a war to rationalize their stay in power, to rationalize their existence. It is not about even defeat of Russia now. It is simply...
So, wait a minute. Sorry, the Europeans can only stay in power to rationalize why they're in power, why Germany has a government of its own, why the UK has a government of its own, why each of these countries can have their own economic freedom and trade amongst each other and all that kind of stuff. Russia can't exist if they're to continue doing this. How does that make any fucking sense? They've moved on from Russian oil and gas by and large. India is now the biggest buyer of Russian oil because they've been given basically a pass by Trump. China has bought less and less of it, and there's an oil glut. There's plenty of oil. There's too much oil to go around.
Keeping on with the failing European Union, with the failing economy, with failing.
Sorry, and being buddies with Russia or allowing them to thrive would somehow better this situation, or the elimination of Russia would do it. Why? What the fuck would and again, if they weren't dealing with Russia, those other funds could go to other things, their manufacturing base, their healthcare, their citizens, their education, all that kind of stuff. If that threat was gone permanently, either because they destroyed it or because it just went away and just fucking skulked off into its own corner and shut the fuck up, Europe would be far better off than just getting in a grinding war to justify their existence. This is some leftover, like, bullshit Vietnam era, conspiratorial justification stuff. It's nonsense. And if this guy's whispering in Putin's ear, it's no wonder that he's got this fixation.
European.
Maybe it's the advice he's getting. Maybe since this is the what passes for the top intellectual in Russia, maybe that's why they're so nuts and full of shit.
Positions in the world. Everybody in the world now laughs at Europe, which used to be, by the way, one of the core centers of world power.
Still is.
And now it's a joke. Of course, I'm not speaking of all Europe. We know that there are decent Europeans, there are smart Europeans. Though in my political class of European thinkers, and you're on foreign policy and defense, etc., there's only one or two men or persons left. I wouldn't name them because that would jeopardize them in the eyes of the audience. But nobody else. I do not have any interlocutor, almost any interlocutor in Europe anymore.
So he's saying that they'll use nuclear weapons. He asked them point blank, what countries?
If there were nuclear strikes from Russia into Europe in the next year or two, as you said there may be, what countries would that include?
But my choice would be Britain and Germany.
My choice would be Britain and Germany. And is there a reason why you wouldn't just do it today?
He says it.
Yes, Solovyev said it on fucking television. They've been talking about nuking Berlin for years, and they haven't done it. Why? Because it would be the end of the world if they started shit like that. It's just dumb.
Britain and Germany.
And also, the idea that a loss in Ukraine and them retreating back to their own lines somehow means a loss of Russia because it would have to go back to its 91 borders. That's the destruction of the country, that they just go back to the borders they had and get the fuck out of Ukraine. Why? I mean, the only reason that's a loss is if your country has nothing and produces nothing. And that the world is moving on from oil. All right, fuck this. Let me show you something. I did a little homework, kids. While the rest of you were having an afternoon, not only was I on our dear friend Richard Chu was filling in for one of the shows on CPT, so I came on and just guessed. So I did a little homework about oil and about a couple other topics. Let's start with oil, I think. Okay, sorry. This is Trump's thing about steel was first. I forgot the order I put it in. So Trump says there are steel plants being built all over the fucking place, and we've got more steel being built in the United States, and they're literally, he said, there are plants going up everywhere. Okay. No, there are not. And demand for steel is at parity with production right now. So in 2020, the U.S. produced 72.7 million metric tons of steel, and we used 82.9. This is in 2020. This is during COVID. This is the low point. Demand was hit very hard, and we used what had been made the year before, but then it went down. 2021 production was at 85.8. It jumped under Joe Biden. And we used 98.9. We had to buy some because construction had halted effectively, and then it jump started. So there was this demand that was left over from the shutdown. Then 2022 goes to 80.5, and the apparent use was 94 to 96 million metric tons. Then it starts to taper off in 2023 when it normalizes again. Basically, you're making up for the gap from 2020 in about 2.5 years. Production was at 81.4. Apparent use was 90. We're buying less and we're using more of what we got. In the United States in 2024, 81 or 79.5 to 81 per World Steel USGS. Apparent use 89.1. Almost 1-to-1 we were making exactly the steel we need in the United States in 2024. And yes, I do think my slides look quite lovely. And then in 2025, production was 79 to 81. Modest year-to-date gains of about 2 to 3%, but soft overall. Apparently, we used 88 to 93, which was down, flat to slightly down, impacted by import restrictions and sector weakness. Two things, both tariffs for the flattened sheet kind of steel, that we buy a lot of that, as the rolled steel, as opposed that's used for like sheet metal kind of metal, that kind of stuff. You buy that because it's processed in a cheaper way and it doesn't have to be structurally sound. Okay, so here is the I made a little infographic for you. This is the apparent steel use is the orange one, and then the crude steel production is the blue line. This is we're about at over at this part right here, and then production starts to ramp up in 2024 after a slight dip from 2023 to 2024, up in 2024, higher than the demand, the window of demand, which is over here, 88 to 93, because there's a backlog of stuff that's always made. And there's still some that you can buy. Like, again, we don't make all of the stuff here that we use. We buy some of the sheet metal, but that's it. And right now it's about at parity. So the idea that you would open up a bunch of steel mills, new ones, which are not happening. Trump said multiple times, there's steel mills opening up all over the place, is what he said. No, they're not. After the Nippon Steel thing, they agreed to an investment in one of the factories to like restart one of the furnaces in Pittsburgh. But it's not a new one. They just didn't shut the old one down. But it lowered the profit margin on the steel that we're making because demand was still sluggish. There are two types of steel that are specifically made in the United States that are specific to use. One is GOES, grain-oriented steel, electrical steel, and non-grain-oriented electrical steel. This is like the magnetism of this goes in one primary direction. On the end goes, it can be magnetic in all directions, mean it's generally magnetic. So if you put a magnet to it, it'll stick. Whereas the goes would be north or south polarized in this. But anyways, that's used for transformers. And then the end goes is used in electric motors and generators. So you make like the rings and stuff that are in an electric motor and generators. And why is that level of steel up over, say, girders? Why is that these two are the primary? Because these are the ones used in electric motors, and the electrification of cars is still increasing in spite of Trump trying to draw down support for electric cars. And even still, in hybrids and in more efficient vehicles, they're making more of these kind of engines. So a lot of the steel we make is going in this direction as opposed to giant steel girders for huge high rises. There are very few of those going up. And then, there's like some that's made on the regular for bridge repair. Okay, so no to Trump's whole thing that he said at Davos. This is what I was watching at the time when I started doing this, for this idea that we got new steel mills all over the place. This is data from the USGS, by the way, Geological Society. And then this would be hold on. Drink. Where are we? Yes, okay. The oil glut. Remember I was talking about the oil glut? Just as I predicted. 2024, there was an oil glut of approximately, well, I'll show you the numbers. And then there's an expected oil glut that goes from 2025 to 2030. It's extended. And part of that is further demand reduction, renewables and efficiency, sustained high production, non-OPEC expansion, which is shale oil in the United States and in Canada and other areas, has expanded the oil that's in the market that is permanently keeping it low. So and there are less control over the extended oil, but the OPEC plus countries. And then Guyana and Brazil found new deposits, which added more oil to the mix as well. Okay. And so here we are. The oil glut, current status and forecast for 2026. The global supply is outpacing demand by a wide margin. The IEA's January 2026 oil market report projects an implied surplus of about 3.69 million barrels a day. So the idea that Trump is going to drill, baby, drill, and drive the price down to $20 a barrel or something like that, which would devastate a lot of the oil-based economies around the world. So they have an active reason not to allow that to happen. And Russia's basically been out of this the entire while this is happening. If anything happens and they're able to dump their oil back onto the market in a big hurry, it would crash the oil markets. We'd be back to COVID barrels. And so, okay, the surplus is expected to be particularly deep in quarter one of 2026, the first quarter, with inventories building rapidly unless major disruptions occur. And they're not. Everything that's supposed to be a major disruption in oil production, war in the Middle East, bombing of Iran, the Israel-Gaza conflict, even the heightened sanctions on Russia has not changed anything. These would be major disruptions in the 90s, in the early 2000s, but after shale, thanks Obama, it's not even a factor anymore. The EIA forecasts global oil inventory builds averaging 2.8 billion, or sorry, 2.8 million barrels per day in 2026, similar to 2025 levels, before easing to an excess of 2.1 million barrels a day in 2027. That's the in their estimation, that's the best possible ideas that would ease to only having 2.1 million barrels a day more oil than we need, as opposed to 3.6. All right. Still a surplus, and still on top of the surplus that is just sitting there. Okay. Supply growth. Global oil production is set to rise by around 2.5 million barrels per day in 2026 to 108.7 million barrels a day. Driven heavily by non-OPEC producers, e.g. U.S. shale, Brazil, and Guyana. These are the ones that have added into this. OPEC Plus has been holding or modestly adjusting output, but non-OPEC Plus growth dominates. These are the new players on the block, while OPEC has been trying to dial down production to protect pricing. Demand growth. The IEA now expects demand to increase by 930 barrels per day in 2026, up from 850 barrels per thousand barrels per day in 2025, a revised higher figure from last month. Still, you have 3.69 million barrels a day overproduction. The absolute rise is about 950,000 barrels a day. Still only, it doesn't make a dent. It takes a third out of the excess. Citing lower prices stimulating use, economic normalization after 2025 trade tariff issues, and some recovery factors. Still, this isn't enough to offset supply. Results. A significant or deep surplus is building, with excess oil buffered in storage, including sea, floating, and on land. What the fuck do you drill, baby, drill with if you're not even breaking even, because there's too much being produced by too many producers, all of whom have to make any kind of profit, especially if they're countries that don't make much else, like Guyana, for example. So I was right about that. This is crude oil output and crude oil oversupply. Notice the charts look a lot like each other. This is 2020 to 2030. This is an almost uninterrupted chart. Has entirely to do with shale exploration and new discoveries in other countries. And the fact that the countries where they already had oil pumping just kept at it, like Russia and Iran and others, with just aging infrastructure. But the oil companies moved into new markets in safer territories, like Brazil, like countries in Africa. Look at that. It's the same fucking. It's the same angle. Output and oversupply are charting together, because there's not going to be a rise in demand. There's nothing to counterbalance it. There aren't going to be 100 million new gas cars coming online. Now, finally, the other thing I was looking into was AI and underemployment. Don't ask me why there's a lady playing the drums on this one. It was stock footage and looked kind of cool. I don't know, because we were playing music last night. Anyways, so one of the questions everybody had is what the president, no matter who they are, was going to be dealing with this oil glut, like I said. And the same thing is true of AI job losses or job modifications. And I wanted to show you something because I looked into a couple of things. Okay, so the projection by 2030 to 2031 from now, that 300 million full-time equivalent jobs will be affected, 300 million jobs. In the U.S. workforce, 6 to 7% of the total workforce, about 10 to 12 million jobs, are going to be displaced by AI. However, a lot of those will be absorbed into another job that will come that's kind of, a cohort, or people will go into different areas that will answer this. So the net job losses, and I'll show you in a minute, are about like 10% of that. Global net job, though, is somewhere between 70 million to 170 million new jobs will be created with this loss of 300 million. So you're losing about 220, somewhere around that area, 230, depending. And task automation will automate up to 70% of routine office tasks will be automated, meaning that the people will go from being clerks and secretaries to more efficient workers, or it's like the ATM effect. I'll show you that in a minute. Okay, so what'll happen to AI in U.S. jobs? This is my breakdown of it, and the internal U.S. job loss is the smaller crisis. It's real, but it's way smaller compared to worldwide what's going to happen. Domestic displacement is not happening uniformly across all experience levels. Instead, it's creating an entry-level compression, meaning that new hires are harder to come by, and old workers are actually staying in their jobs. It's the first time technology has not taken jobs from old people first, because anybody can use this stuff, and everybody's just as new to it, even the kids. Nobody gets a head start on how this works. And judgment is more important than ability at this point, because the AI can do the ability part. The canary in the coal mine. Data from late 2025 shows that while senior roles remain stable, hiring for U.S.-based entry-level workers aged 22 to 25 in AI-exposed fields like software engineering or customer service has declined by roughly 13 to 16%. So hiring for young people going into these fields has declined 13 to 16%. Firings, which everybody was worried about, caused by these things, have actually are negligible. There is a blue-collar resilience to this, because skilled trades and manual occupations, healthcare, construction, renewable energy, are seeing a surge in value and growth as they remain difficult to automate compared to white-collar, routine cognitive tasks, which are the first thing that are going to go. This is the first time where factory automation hits the thinking class. Now, outside the United States, and by the way, is this good, chat room? You with me? Still there? Is this illuminating? Because I did homework. I wanted to show it off to you. Outside the United States, outsourced labor, the repatriation of tasks. Foreign outsourced labor is facing a different, more existential threat. AI is increasingly acting as a cheaper alternative to low-cost human outsourcing. This is exactly what I said. And I went and looked this up, and I checked it against like 3 different sites, and like Bureau of Labor Statistics, and all these people who are, the companies that are ending jobs using AI. They're doing it in, the customer service phone banking that they did in India and places like that. That's what's happening. The displacement value proposition. Companies that previously outsourced call centers, data entry, and basic coding to countries like India or the Philippines are now shifting those budgets towards AI agents. They are replacing the person that would call you and you go, hello, I am Stan, right? That person, that's the person losing their job first. And there are teeming numbers of people like this that these countries rely on as a huge influx of money that entire towns are centered around in Central Asia, in Vietnam, in Cambodia, and in India especially, and then certainly to some degree in China. Efficiency gains. Firms like Klarna have already demonstrated the ability to replace thousands of outsourced support roles with a single AI-driven interface, achieving the same productivity with near zero marginal cost. The job loss is not going to be inside the United States. It's going to be no longer paying foreign workers to do work that there weren't enough Americans to do. Anything that was cognitive work or customer service, talking on the phone where you didn't need an actual physical person, that job's going away. Like immediately. This is going to be the biggest shock to employment of the AI, the early part of AI era. Okay. Foreign skill gaps. While the U.S. is leading in AI orchestrator roles, many developing countries that rely on outsourced service labor are at risk for a displacement gap if they cannot rapidly reskill their workforce to manage AI systems rather than compete with them. And I got to tell you, that ain't happening. And the problem is that there's no reason for it. There's no reason to outsource to somebody else's AI. The only recourse that these countries would have, like India, would be to form their own AI and start building their own industries within and using these tools in a creative way to create businesses and run them within them. But they have so many people that, it's like why nobody can figure out why China wants all these robots when they've got all these idle people sitting around that don't have jobs. So the next wave, agents. Agentic AI, we've been talking about this for the last 6 months especially. But this is the biggest one, which is basically autonomous AIs that can be given tasks and can reason through those tasks of a couple of stages. And instead of one giant one that's like a Jarvis for every employee, you have these, little ones that do specific tasks. And when you want that specific task done, it can spin up that task and come back to you, as opposed just like an old-fashioned calculator, just on a different scale, right? Buying and procuring materials that you buy, supplies all the time. Repurchasing those supplies based on making sure that you have a certain amount available on hand at all time. The things you would use a clerk to do, to go in and check how many catalogs are on the shelves. Like, we need more catalogs. We got to order more catalogs, like in Joe versus the Volcano. It will do that automatically. That's the task. It used to be a person who would sit there and do that. That person's job will be gone. But it was hard to find people to do those jobs. So a lot of it went undone, or people would just have a reaction moment where they'd go down and like, oh shit, we're running low on that. And then they'd have to go through the process. Now, this can be automated to make sure it shows up, like people automate buying groceries on a schedule. If you have a smart refrigerator, this is the kind of the home example of this would be, you have a smart refrigerator that knows how many eggs are left because it knows when you bought them. And then it orders eggs from Amazon on the regular because it knows how many eggs you actually go through. So you get to the point where, unless you order special for something specific, you never waste any eggs. That's the direction they're going with businesses. Whether that gets to home level or not is a different thing entirely. It's just the analogy I'm using. So the key factor in this is the primary driver for the next 5 years is the move from chatbots to AI agents. Unlike earlier AI that required constant human prompting, 2026 marks the rise of agents capable of running entire workflows, scheduling, inventory, basic legal review, end to end. This technology is expected to be embedded in 40% of all enterprise applications by 2027, accelerating displacement in both domestic office environments and global back office hubs. And a lot of this was the stuff that was outsourced to foreign countries. Now, who gets affected by this? How's this going to affect the U.S. workforce and all this stuff? And in what areas? Entry-level workers. Unemployment for recent college graduates under 24 has climbed towards 10% as firms automate the junior tasks, basic coding, research, administrative support, that traditionally used new hires to do that. You'd hire help, and that help would eventually work in the company long enough where they would move up into the upper levels. They don't need those folks anymore. Not for that job. So you would have to come in as like a knowledgeable, helpful, creative addition to that, as opposed to being hired because we need a clerk. And that clerk, you work your way up from the mailroom to the boardroom. That idea. That eliminates the first two rungs in that ladder. Gender disparity. Roughly 79% of working women are in roles with high automation potential. Women are going to be affected by this more than men. There was the great, COVID resulted in a lot of men losing their jobs. AI is the opposite of that. Office support, healthcare administration, clerking, filing, all that kind of stuff, in areas as disparate as insurance and healthcare and I mean, like I think companies like Garmin, for example, somewhere in the order of like 80% of the female workforce there is not administrative. They're like clerk level jobs, or their process can be automated. That's 79% of working women are in those, as opposed to 58% of men. So both those groups are going to be affected, but there will be more women affected by this. Specific industries, office and admin support. 75% of tasks are exposed to automation in office and admin. And then legal and finance, 40 to 50% of the work is susceptible to agentic AI workflows. So there's a ton of stuff where law firms are going to be, all the clerking will be done by AI. All the pre-prep and arrangement and organization of evidence and responses and all that stuff. That's headed that direction. Same thing with finance. So, where's my last thing? Is this it? Yeah. This one right here. Yeah, okay. So, in the United States, there will be a 0.6 to 1% change in unemployment due to AI specifically. It's about 1 to 1.5 million workers are going to lose their jobs permanently. Everybody else will shift to something else because new jobs will be created. They're going to lose about 12, but 17 million jobs will be created. But there will be a gap of 1 to 1.5 million jobs that you will not be able to port over, and they'll just vanish. So that person will have to learn an entirely new trade or stay home or whatever, do something else with their life. But that's our effect. 0.6 to 1% change in unemployment. Whereas other countries, they're looking at 6 to 10%. You can see where I got the 10% of the damage. We're going to experience 10% of the damage can be done in countries like India by these things alone. And if it's and on a percentage base, because per capita is everything, that's about 1 to 1.5 million workers in the United States. In India, that's tens of millions of people unemployed. So, when has this happened before? We've experienced stuff like this before. In the Industrial Revolution, in the computer revolution, and now AI. The first people who were affected were physical laborers, people with a shovel in their hand, were affected by plows and that kind of stuff. It took 80 to 100 years. The core replacement was we replaced human muscle with machines, and it created new roles, factory managers and engineers. They became crucial to agriculture. 80% of people worked in agriculture in the United States 100 years ago. Now 3% do. And the food output is higher. There are more people fed, and food is cheaper based on cost of living than it was back then, for better or worse. And that's because of efficiencies in it and because of our replacement of physical labor, because labor was the most expensive thing in farming. Getting the stuff into the ground, out of the ground, and into your mouth was a lot of steps. And then the computer revolution came along, the personal computer, all that kind of stuff. That hit clerical and admin workers. It took 20 to 30 years. It replaced human memory and math. They were able to calculate and remember details in a way that somebody with a ledger would have to flip through and go, I remember what page that's on. That was all gone. But it created IT support and software developers. That was the industry that was made out of this. Now comes this. The difference in all of these is the first one was 80 to 100 years. The second was 10 to 30 years. This one's 5 to 10 years. And that's why it will be a shock. It won't be the change that's the shock. It's how fast it happens. So it's going to attack cognitive and creative workers. And this doesn't even include the automation aspect that's been heightened because it's attached to the ongoing industrial revolution. I think that pairs better with that. So you could say that that's still going on. It's 5 to 10 years. It's going to take over human logic and synthesis of knowledge, multiple ideas where you can slap them together and reason something out. And it can help you reason these things out without having to get another human involved in the loop. And then it creates new people, or they call them AI orchestrators or ethicists. But these are the people, and I would say these would like innovation and AI teams at work that help take any kind of evolvement of these tools and allow them to work in in industry and that kind of stuff, because you're still going to have to make them fuse with American workers and the like. So that was my bullshit report for the week. I did my homework and was kind of looking into the the only person I know who died from COVID refused to get the vaccine. Yeah, there's a lot of that going around. Thank you, patrons. Thank you, guys. I hope some of that was illuminating. I'm going to build on that so I have it to call on all the time. Especially around like Trump's BS about oil and the oil glut. I knew I was right about the oil glut. I really did. I could see the writing on the wall. I was doing the math. I was following the trends. I was recognizing the changes. It's not, I don't think it takes that much brains, which is why I'm shocked that other people didn't spot it or were slow to spot it. But it's clearly a factor. And it will continue to be one as we move away from oil, because the oil will become, the less it's used, the more of a chance that people are overproducing, and that's just going to keep going. Same thing with like steel production. We're going to move into steel support for concrete production. Concrete and 3D printing houses is going to be the shift that we move to eventually, because of the speed we can put up houses. And so steel production is basically leveled off. And that's where it's going to stay. So the idea that Trump says we have steel plants being built all over the place is bullshit, and will continue to be bullshit. And then, of course, we'll talk more about my AI figures with Rob on Friday. Yeah. So I really wanted to go through. I know concrete is finite, but there's also variants, new forms of concrete that are being made as well. And it's not as finite in some ways as say steel production, or limited in that. And there's options. So those are, each one of those areas where we keep encountering the same lie over and over and over again, I'm going to build a little report on it like that we can draw up at any time. I saved that, so anytime this stuff comes up, I can redress it and add stuff to it. But I wanted to rebut a lot of this kind of like rolling lie that Trump keeps putting up. And the next one I'm going to do is on manufacturing, because I started looking into that, but I didn't have time because there was so much material to put it into a similar graphic. But I'll run everybody through it and share that with you when I'm done. So anyways, Hal, since Hollywood is doing a sequel and redo, how about they bring back Queer as Folk? Well, they tried on Bravo and and I had a woman come to the show last night. This was actually pretty fun. A friend of a friend who came to the show. She's from Chicago, and she'd never been out to LA, and her friend, her boyfriend or whatever, brought her to the show. And she realized about like 5 minutes in that I was Michael from Queer as Folk, with this long ass hair and my beard and everything. She was like, a lot of times it's my voice. And she was like, "Oh my God." She was like, she started flipping out. I took a picture with her. It was very nice. But she definitely had this thing where she was like, "What have you done with my friend? You're not Michael. You killed him. Who are you, strange person with long hair and beard? Why are you singing like that? How does this work?" Because it's a tribute to my acting. Thank you very much. That I'm not that guy. And so it was funny to have a renewed view of somebody recognizing that. It was nice. It was very, yeah, it was lovely. Anyway, she was lovely. It was really nice. And she, luckily she enjoyed the show on its own merits, and it wasn't just like, oh, I like it because the guy I like doing the other thing is now doing this. So I'm, it's kind of like adjacent. It was just separate entirely. It was really lovely. And so I have a feeling that a lot of the casting people, especially, don't get me started on the anti-gay aspect of Hollywood casting, the irony that people think that there's this big kind of left-wing DEI, anti-racist, anti-bigot kind of thing in casting, and there absolutely is not. There's perfunctory stuff in the production side of it, but the reality is they'll stereotype you in a second and that will keep you from other stuff. Unless they can, it's so weird. But anyways, so it's up to me to make sure that I don't get typecast is the point. And when I do, when I look like myself and act like myself, and they're like, "You're not like your character," I'm like, "Yeah, that's the whole goddamn point." And I was like, you know what? At some point, I gotta just do nothing but character work. Yeah. Hal, where do you think Snowden is now? I'm fairly certain he's dead. I think he's been dead for a while. You were a complete unknown to you on Twitch? Well, great. That's the way it should work. I should, look, I have this rule that I will do anything I want to do in my life as long as I could do it by itself and it's worthwhile. That's why I sing and play music, is because I feel like it stands on its own. My acting stands on its own. My stand-up stands on its own. This show stands on its own. And anything I can do that falls into that category where I could compete with somebody on a level playing field, in a field, if I feel like doing that, that's what I'll do. And that's my standard. Could I do it professionally by itself and make a career out of it? Then I will do it because I love it and I want to do it. And that's how everybody should be. If you want to do something and you believe that you can do something on that level, and you still do something else, you shouldn't go, I can't do that because I'm a this. It's stupid. So should, be the most you can possibly be. You like to see me in a villain role? That's what I said. Summer says with the beard, I look like a villain. I think she meant it as a compliment, though. Water Goddess, yeah, it takes a minute. And again, that's a personality thing, because I'm very proud of the fact that Michael has a very Ichigo fan. That's a question for Robot Chicken or whatever. No, Snowden's, was there. It's amazing shock. It's true. The Doctor Less Evil. Yeah, I do think Snowden's dead. I think they killed him there, and I think they replaced basically him online as a chatbot, and so all of his posts and stuff are all fake or tapes that they made earlier. And they just release him because he always looks the same, which is telling. So you have reinvented yourself many times over your 68 years, as you should. So anyways, if you appreciate the show, appreciate it on its merits, not because of the other stuff I do, but because of the work I do here. And I hope it's worth your time. And I think that it is. And I can't tell you how much I appreciate seeing you guys and being around you guys like every day. Hold on, let me see if I got over here. And then thank you guys for the super chats today. Really appreciate it. Thank you, MZ Lee. Really appreciate. And make sure, she says, make sure you're still registered to vote. Yes. I'm glad Candy, you enjoyed me getting loud. I get really fucking irritated at some of this. Yeah, Salty lives in, that's me turning into Salty Live. I'll help you with a grant proposal. Believe me, I can, I could sell ice to an Eskimo. Is that the idea? Awesome, Shannon. And for the guitar tabs of your intro music, Hubby's been trying to work it out to no avail. My original intro music, which one? Because I'm fairly certain I figured out a way to make tabs of some of the stuff that I made. Because I think there are AI things that will do it now, that will create tablature for music. I'll look it up. If I can find one, maybe that's what I'll tell you what, I'll look it up, Candy, between now and Friday on Friday, and we'll I'll see if I can present it, and I'll check it out and see if it works between now and then, because I'm going to be in LA till Friday because of NAM, and then I'm going to drive back later that day. I may do Friday's afternoon show might be at NAM, just so you know, and then I'm going to drive back in time to do radio the next morning because I'd rather do it at home. It's easier. So that said, I love you guys. I will see you tomorrow. Take care of yourselves and take care of somebody else. And we'll see you soon. Okay, hold on. And I think I have, am I ending? Yeah, I do. Whoops. You guys are awesome. See you later. Hit that like, share the show. Thank you guys for the support and the super chats. It means a lot. It's the only thing that keeps the show afloat. Bless you. And I will see you tomorrow. Okay, Twitch people, emote me. Go ahead, do it.